Welcome, everybody. I'm going to call tonight's Board of Finance meeting to start the meeting, and we'll start with the pledge. So, John, will you lead us on?
Sure. Flags over there.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you very much. All right, so welcome to tonight's Board of Finance. This is our quarterly meeting where we will hear financial results from our town pension and OPEB funds, the Board of Education, and from the town, from our CFO. We also have on the agenda tonight an update from our internal auditor on 4 outstanding audits. And other than that, we don't have any voting items. We won't have public comment, but anyone from the public with comments is welcome to reach out to the board via the town website. With that, we'll start with agenda item number 3. Tonight's presenter is the JRIB chair, Ken Brackfeld. Ken, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
And for those following online, the backup for this item starts on page 1 of the backup on the town website.
Okay.
The floor is yours.
I'm going to be extremely brief tonight because there's nothing but good news, and I don't think it's fair to take extra credit for good news because there's nothing that happens in the markets that has anything to do with what we're doing. We have a very common sense blended diversified portfolio. I say this at every meeting, and the markets do what the markets do for all of our lifetimes and somewhat before that. The general tenor of the markets is upward, but not in a straight line. The smart thing to do is to keep a portfolio like this in place and not panic or get overly concerned when there's been a day, month, quarter, even year or 2 years actually. But thankfully, since 2009, we haven't had any really extended bad periods. Very high level numbers. I could go separately. JRIB pension, I'm not going to do it because the numbers are very close to each other. The OPEB is always a tiny bit better because there's more equities in OPEB. Quarter over quarter. I'm sorry. This is all end of year. This is all this is coming from our January presentation from BlackRock, which is through December 31st, right? So quarter over quarter was about 2.35%. OPEB was 2.65. Year to date, 7.64 in the pension, 9.07 in the OPEB, and year over year. So again, year to date would be the fiscal year to date. Year over year would obviously be the last 12 months. 15.5% on the pension, 18+% on the OPEB. I stress to you over and over again that these are extraordinary numbers for a diversified portfolio like we have, not to be expected to continue, or else we would have a higher rate than 6.9 as our discount rate, which I think is too high to begin with. So nothing changed in the distribution of the assets. I mean, I shouldn't say nothing's changed because obviously as the markets move, you organically have some slight changes. Equities have been a big performer, so our percentage of equities will creep up, and at some point BlackRock will step in and rebalance. They do that on a regular basis. We discussed that at the last meeting. Here's something of some interest. Non-US equities have continued the last couple of quarters outperforming US equities. I must say that is academically of interest. I used to be able to get a chuckle by pointing out correctly that for the past 1, 3, 5, 7, 10, 20, and 30-year periods, US equities have outperformed foreign. Just when I have gotten around to saying that, the script has flipped a bit, and we have had some nice outperformance on international equities, and that's been a big help to the portfolio. I think all that proves is that diversification works. You don't like to wait 30 years for it to work, but usually it doesn't take that long for it to happen. The alternatives are what they are. You know, it's a somewhat controversial subject, I guess. Some people like alternatives, some people don't. Some people are very concerned about the illiquidity and the high fees. I don't think we're going to settle that discussion here. It's a continual discussion at our board. The alternatives have not performed terribly, but they have underperformed the equity markets, and that's not something I would like to see going forward because we're paying enormous fees and a lot of illiquidity. So we should be getting outperformance, not underperformance. But I don't think we should focus on the super short term. I also wrote down a few things here. So that report I just gave you is, and actually, since I see Mr. Walsh just arrived, please don't extrapolate the wonderful results and assume that they're going to be continuing like this. Because thank you very much. This report I'm giving you is end of 2025. Even though the markets have continued to go and we're up even since then, a few things have happened between then and mid-February that are of some interest. Bitcoin, not something that we're involved with, but is something that has become a big part of the marketplace, for better or worse, has suffered a gigantic drop, I don't know, maybe 40% from the high or some big number. That is only interesting, to tell you the truth, even if you're not an investor in it directly. The way the markets are intertwined and the level of leverage that are in Bitcoin portfolios and Bitcoin funds. So if it drops enough and there's liquidations and so forth, it could spill over to the general market. So it's not really anything we can do about, but it is something to be aware of. And then also the last few weeks, there's been a bit of a market rotation because the AI is only getting, and I'm kind of late to this story, but I'm reading a lot about it. The AI models are becoming unbelievably powerful. And there's some concern in the markets that whole sectors of the economy could be significantly affected by it. So software companies were the first one, I think about 2 weeks ago, got hit enormously. And then recently, financial companies like Charles Schwab, Morgan Stanley got significantly hit. And I think maybe some law firms that are public, I'm not sure. There's a lot of thought that a lot of this work can be done by AI, and it will affect the profitability of software. For example, is a big favorite of hedge funds and private credit funds because of the recurring revenue. You know, they think they're just going to keep getting this monthly revenue ad infinitum, and AI could affect that. But what I'll say back about that is we don't have any software specific funds in our portfolio, or financial company funds. We are a diversified portfolio that hopefully can withstand drops in some areas of the market, almost always is offset by gains in other areas. So you don't, there's always somebody out there who tells you they bought NVIDIA 3 years ago and they're a genius and they made 8,000%. A, it's not true, and B, it's not a responsible way to run a diversified pension fund. Second, I happened to read an interesting article about it, so I'll finish with this. We've talked about this here, and it's something we talk about at the fund, the concentration risk. So the S&P 500 is a cap-weighted index, which means the bigger the stock gets in terms of its value. So NVIDIA is worth something like $4 trillion. Microsoft is probably close to 4 trillion, and whatever, Amazon. So those stocks, and they're called the Magnificent Seven, don't force me to name all of them, constitute something like 30% or more of the S&P 500. And that is a serious issue. And so that is something you could address. There are alternative S&P 500 index funds that do what's called equal weighting rather than cap weighting. So instead of weighting am I making myself clear here? So NVIDIA is significantly more represented in a standard S&P 500 fund than I can't pick a company that's number 400, whatever it may be, Xerox if they're still in business. And but a so-called equal weight simply takes all 500 of the biggest companies and buys 0.2% of that. 500 times 0.2% equals 100%. So
is that something that your board has discussed?
We've discussed it a lot. We've never done anything about it. And I've been concerned about it, both for my own for personal investing and also for the fund. I read a very interesting article the other day that I think is worth just mentioning. It put in a way that I hadn't thought about it, which was that it's not really as risky as it sounds, because a company like Google, a company like NVIDIA, they have their tentacles all throughout the economy. To the extent that all those other companies do well, these big companies are going to do well. So it's not, I should have brought the article, give you a copy of it. It's not so clear that that concentration presents as much risk as it sort of seems like it would. And of course, it's been borne out by the results. If you were worried about this 10 years ago and you made the switch, you would have lost out on enormous amounts of money. So anyway, so that's, oh, I'm sorry, one more thing. I said I'd be brief. I'm a little longer than that, but it's also interesting. At either our last meeting or maybe the one before, I think it was the one before, they gave us a chart. BlackRock gave us a chart. BlackRock's doing a good job for what it's worth. This is a chart of the 15, I guess they chose the 15 towns that are sort of like our competitors. It's the wrong word, but Bristol, Darien, Greenwich, Groton, Middletown, Milford, New Britain, New Norwalk, Norwich, Stratford, Waterbury, West Hartford, Westport, and Fairfield. Why they chose those, I can't tell you for sure. But what it does is tell us the size of each of their pension funds, the funded ratio, and the discount rate we're using. And I thought that was interesting so that we can compare ourselves to others. And I actually did a little bit of work this afternoon. So the average funded ratio is 88% among those 15. It ranges from 60%, which is not good, to 127%, which is either very good or maybe even a little too good. And the average is 88 and we're 83. So we're in the ballpark, but we're a little on the low side. And then the discount rate, which is the assumed interest rate that's used for the actuary to do the calculations, we're at 6.9%. The range is 6.125 up to 7.80. So, and that average is 6.64. So we're also a little bit high. So in both cases, we're to the bad side of average, but not by a lot. And also that goes back, actually, that's from June 30th, 2024. So things could have changed a bit. But what was really interesting to me, and Tom, you were probably at the meeting too, is that you see an interesting pattern in the way that different towns invest based on how funded they are. So the town of Darien is 100% funded. And they have a very simple brain dead portfolio of 60% equity, 40% bond, purely US, set it and forget it, like that guy with the rotisserie used to say. And what a joy it must be to operate a pension fund like that. And they're 100% funded. And what does that tell you? It's not really a good thing. It tells you that the lower your funded ratio, the more you feel you have to be aggressive and take a little more risk in order to try and get right. And right now that's working out because the markets are really good. If the markets have a big tumble, it won't be. So
we're 83% funded. Does your board talk about a date in which they want to get to 100%?
no, but I think the reason is that it's completely and utterly not under our control. The only two ways you could tweak that would be changing the discount rate. And I guarantee you we wouldn't be changing the direction that would help that. And obviously the market performance. And also, I guess the Board of Finance could say we're having a great year tax collection wise, we're going to dump some more money into the pension, right? But none of those are within our control.
Great. Any questions? Mr. Alloy?
Yeah, I was curious, why is the foreign equity target higher, higher rather than the 25% versus 30%?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Foreign versus US.
So non-US versus US.
Yeah, OPEB versus pension. Target is higher, it's 30% for
The OPEB was started much more recently with zero money, and I guess technically when it started. There was a conscious effort to be a little more aggressive with it so that we could try and grow it. I'm not saying that's the right way to do it, but in hindsight it was. And we've done very well, and we've actually, in fact, we talked about it at one of the last meetings. I don't remember exactly, but I think we're up to a level where we're able to start, whatever, maybe Tom knows more than I do, but we've done very well with the OPEB in a short period of time. I think the town should actually be pretty proud about that whole thing. That's a very expensive, unfunded, long-term medical cost thing that now we have a very substantial reserve, you could call it a reserve fund or whatever, rather than just pay as you go, which could get dangerous,
So do these targets stay the same for 26 then?
Oh, I bet you I'll come back in 29 and they'll be the same.
Glad to have you back in 29.
Yeah, you could. I actually think this is overkill. I think a year is unnecessary. I know it's in this, the books, but We really run a very slow moving,
Yeah,
rarely changed.
Good news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good. Have a great meeting.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so with that, we'll move on to item number 4 on the agenda, which is to hear from the Board of Education on the fiscal year 26 second quarter financial results. Presenting tonight, we welcome Frank Magneri back to Fairfield. Frank was the budget director for the town for a bit and left for a short stint, but back on the Board of Education side. Also with Frank is our superintendent, Mr. Testani. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
So for the public, the backup for this item can be found on page 18 of the online version. And with that, we'll turn it over to you guys.
Nice to see everybody again. So I'll just go over the contents of the packet that I handed out. There's a memo, which is the first 2 pages, a summary, which goes over our major expenditure objects, a detailed object summary, which shows each line item, the budget, goals, and any revisions that have been made so far. And there's essentially a P&L for on the last page. So for this presentation, I'll really be relying on the first 2 pages, which is the memo, and then the summary, which is the summary of major expenses. So all in all, Q2, we're expecting or estimating a $948,000 surplus. Just like to point out, it's still relatively early in the year. First one I'm doing for the Board of Ed, so I don't know what I don't know, but we tried to create the best projection that we could for you guys. So just going through the major drivers of the surplus for personnel services. That's we're expecting a $900,000 surplus, and that tracks to some of the things that we talked about in the budget. Our proposed budget includes a reduction in FTEs, so we're already starting to see some savings there. We do put in projected additional amount for unencumbered salaries for teachers that are on long-term leave that could return. And like I said, there's also things that could happen throughout the year, so we tried to be a little bit conservative there. So that's really the big line items for personnel services. We're projecting a surplus of about $860,000 in the fixed charges, which is really in the health insurance. We've already made the payment for pension, so this really tracks with the savings that we're seeing in our personnel services now. As we continue and we go to people personnel services, really special education. This assumes a deficit of about $280,000. These costs are volatile and they can change just based on if somebody comes into the district that we don't know about that needs services, these things could change. But we are projecting a small deficit there at this time. And it's also impacted by our excess cost grant, which is currently at 68%. As we move to school expenses, this is school-based budgets for instructional materials, supplies, and extracurricular activities. There's just a slight deficit there, some copying expenses. If you move on to the second page of the summary, you'll see support expenses. We're projecting it about $25,000 there. There was a transfer for legal services that we did that was more minutia for the Board of Education, but if anybody has any questions, I can review that. For maintenance and operations, that's where we're projecting our largest deficit, and that's really due to the winter that we've had. You know, through the last storm, we're pretty much already out on our snow removal budget. So we made some assumptions for future snowstorms, and you know, it's important to remember it's not just if snow hits the ground, right? There's always pre-treating that needs to be done if there are icy conditions. So that's where we try to be conservative, so we don't.
I just ask a question on that.
Sure.
Understandably, like obviously we've had a tough winter and forecasting this deficit makes sense, but you also mentioned that you've made some adjustments for potential future winter events. Is it safe to say that if Mother Nature behaves between now and then, this deficit, between now and the end of the school year, this deficit will be less than that?
The deficit in this line could be more, but could be a deficit, there could be another deficit in another one.
Understand, like, look, this is early in the year. I think we all understand that. I'm just, you were focused on the winter snow removal, and I thought I heard you say that you made some adjustments so that you take into account potential storms, and I just want to understand whether if Mother Nature doesn't give us another storm, whether we have potential relief from the deficit will still be there, but not as great, I guess is my.
Sure, yes, yeah, and it does include other unexpected maintenance projects, for example.
Yeah, I was just gonna hit on
Yeah,
that
go ahead.
real quickly, because we did have to, a large storm, we did have to bring in our contractor to haul some of the snow out, so that was an unexpected cost, but we had some issues on one of the wings over at Fairfield Ward High School, some elevated, not dangerously elevated, but concerns with CO2, which uncovered some cleaning that needed to be done of units and ductwork that totaled almost $68,000. We had a busted sprinkler at Ward last weekend. We're still waiting for the bill on that, but we're talking probably about 30 grand there. Another busted sprinkler at Woods. We haven't gotten that yet. We had to replace some split units over at a couple of the schools for $69,880. We had some HVAC repairs over at Burr Elementary that were about $47,000. We were having some issues over at Tomlinson, which required some excavation to stop water from pouring in. That was about $42,000. So these are part of that line that put us a little bit more at risk.
All right, I didn't want to derail the conversation. I just
Yeah,
wanted
no problem.
to go quick dive in, but please continue.
Yeah, I mean, so that's really the biggest thing in maintenance and operations. And then for capital outlay, right now, we're expecting that everybody to spend up to what we have allocated. And, you know, this is based on their assumptions in here. Like I said, assumptions can change. Right now, I don't know what I don't know. I feel pretty comfortable with this estimate. I went through every line. Just an estimate.
And I also should point out that we have Mr. Krasnoff from the Board of Ed joining as well. I apologize for not introducing you. Do you have a question or comment?
Well, I just wanted to chime in and remind everyone, we did cut some of the pupil transportation budget last year. So just keep that in mind. We've been trying to find some savings all year for it, but that was a cut we made to the budget.
So there was a stretch last year and you're feeling that pain this year.
You're gonna see transportation related expenses in the pupil personnel expenses, which is on the first page of the summary. And then on the second page of the summary under maintenance, which is also where there's some transportation expenses there. And you will see that we are right now projecting deficits in transportation, but as Mr. Krasnoff just mentioned, after the town had adopted its budget, there was a reduction made to transportation. And, that's part of the story when it comes to transportation.
Okay, so will that worsen, or, I mean, we're only 4 months into the school year, the deficit that you're seeing so far through 2Q?
That's hard to say, given the fact that we're working closely with our provider. Trying to consolidate some routes. We did go out to the community to see if some folks would opt out of busing. We got about 90 families that did opt out. We're trying to consolidate routes, but not extend routes to go too much longer than, we try to stay under an hour for kids to get on the bus. We've made a shift in our athletic and charter transportation company. More of that is because of service more so than cost. I think cost-wise, it may bring a slight increase in cost, but improve services dramatically. We're having a lot of issues with our provider for student to provide both home to school as well as the charters and the athletics. That was resoundingly evident last spring. And a little bit more this winter with field trips where kids were waiting and no bus showed up to the field trip. So we're anticipating a little increase in cost there, but more value in the service that they're going to provide us. I think to Frank's point on the personnel, as we get into the budget in a couple of weeks, we've already made some reductions through attrition. We had some positions where either there was retirements, resignations that we haven't filled for the remainder of this year. That'll stay and has been adjusted for the future budget for next year.
And I believe there were some adjustments to the ECC buses too, right, Mr. Testani?
Correct. We adjusted the time for the afternoon dismissal for preschool for the half-day program to coincide with the full-day program so that there wouldn't be double runs in the afternoon. So that was an adjustment we made about a month ago.
Mr. Bentley?
I have a question about the personnel services. So at the end of the day, there's a reduction and we're gonna have potentially some surplus there. How does it shift around in terms of where people were moved? Like, I'm trying to make sense of, I know that there's, what did I see? Like STEAM was, looking at the detailed back at the STEAM was at 0, but now it's at 11, but I know that there was already STEAM before. So
Correct.
so what is sort of high level, like what happened in terms of people who were shifted around?
So what we did is we had 7 STEAM teachers that were kind of itinerant staff. And we had a need for 4 gifted teachers. So what we did was we combined the 2 positions. So there would be 1 person at each elementary school that would provide both gifted services and the STEAM to the building. That was kind of what some of the feedback we got, that it was better when there was a relationship and a familiarity with the teacher. So kind of used resources and consolidated to have a better delivery model.
Was there anywhere else where there were big sort of swapping around of?
So we had individual and assistant principal leave the district. A special ed supervisor wanted the position. We didn't fill that position. That was going back to November, so we're saving there. It will not be a position that we're going to fill. It's part of reductions for next year's budget. A couple of clerical positions, same thing. We had retirements. We did not fill, and we're looking to continue to do that through attrition wherever we can. So it makes next year's reductions that are in our current budget proposal to be less impactful.
Thanks.
Questions? Walsh.
First to personnel services, with a savings of $900,454 is the transfer on December 31st, 2025. Is that an internal transfer that Board of Ed voted on?
The legal services.
No,
Oh.
personnel services salary lines. On this page right here, it says you made a transfer of almost $7 million, and now you're over budget by $900,000.
Well,
So
yeah, so there was a transfer from degree changes to the other areas that we're looking at, and the way that the way that the transfer policy works is that we can transfer within this personnel services category between the objects within that category.
Okay.
We would only need to go to board approval for
one major
anything from one
category
category to another.
So why was there a reduction of $1.7 million in degree changes?
Those were degree changes that that people receive. It's kind of like what we do with like the wage reserve for the town in the middle of the year, right? As a contract settles, you may reduce the budget in that line and then increase the budgets in the individual departments. So this was really just a transfer to say, okay, we budgeted X amount in degree changes and people's salaries increasing because of their degree changes, and now we're just going to shift them to their regular salaries. So that's what that transfer is.
So the degree changes is basically kind of a accounting kind of some type of reserve you have for how much that's gonna, how much you're gonna have to pay them for now getting their degrees?
So the contract reads that there's a bachelor's lane, a master's lane, a 6th-year lane, a 7th-year lane, and then a PhD. So last year, I don't know if you recall, during the budget process, we had made assumptions based on the individuals notifying us by the deadline that they would be seeking coursework and that they would be completed in time to receive the lane change. And leave almost all, there was a few that did not meet the deadline to complete the coursework, but the vast majority did. That's the 1.7.
Okay, so the money was in the degree changes and you just moved it up to salaries because that's where you have to pay them out of that, correct?
Correct. And I will note that in the proposed budget, the degree change number is reduced.
Significantly lower because just,
Everybody got their degree change?
well, not everybody, but a significant number of staff members did. And there's some other, things that we made changes to that made it a little bit more cumbersome. So to speak.
It'll be an 82% decrease, going from 1.8 million to 332,000.
That's pretty drastic. All right, so all in all, this transfer had nothing to do with that line, the salaries line. It's just, that was just increases there, but you already read the money. So remind me from the last meeting, what quarterly reason for savings on personnel services? 'Cause I think we talked about it more there last meeting on why it's off so much. Why there's such a surplus. There's less teachers, less FTEs.
There's one less supervisor in special education, which accounts with benefits. Some, they did work a couple of months out of the year, but that accounts for, on a full year, 200,000 plus.
Okay.
With benefits, a couple of clerical staff that have retired that we have not filled. A couple of sections that we did not need to open, that were in the budget and just didn't. That's pretty much.
So the sections that you
And I
didn't
think
have
what
to
Frank mentioned, we have some folks that are on long-term leave that we do anticipate to come back, that will eat up some of that.
on the FTEs where you didn't fill sections, do you have any idea for your current budget, are those sections going to be restored, or you think that it's just that school and that population that's?
Well, we're just going by what the demographers project. Kindergarten is unpredictable. We're in the middle of kindergarten registration now. We know how many will be moving up from our preschool, but we don't know about the community-based preschools. We also have that group of students from September 1 birth dates to December 31st that could possibly enter kindergarten, but may not. We're doing the waiver process where they have to come in, children have to demonstrate their readiness for kindergarten. We had, I think 50 students came in looking to enter kindergarten that were in that time, birth date range last Thursday. So that could affect the number of sections.
Okay.
And just depends on where some of the families move in over the next several months.
Gotcha. All right, my next question is on support expenses. Right, number one, welcome aboard. Looking forward to continue to work with you again.
Yeah.
So, well.
I couldn't stop talking about seeing you today. All day, he said, I can't wait to see
The great thing
Jim.
about me is that he can predict my questions. So, I know you said to talk to you offline, but that's my work schedule right now. That's not gonna happen. So I'm gonna ask the question now. Explain to me the $125,000 transfer from legal business services to sped expenses.
Yeah, so this is just a change that we made to help us better comply with some of the reporting requirements that we have. So we're required to report special education expenses separately from general education expenses. And so we made a transfer of $125,000 and then funded the sped legal services line. So it's all staying in legal services. We just broke it out. And the different major category was, to be honest, a decision before I had arrived, but because it was within legal services, I didn't see it. It's just all.
Okay, so this is now moving $125,000.
Yes, yeah, and that is on the first page, sped expenses, future personnel.
Those are legal services in regards to lawyers you have to hire in regards to challenging whether somebody should have services or not services.
Or sometimes defend the services that we're able to provide that
Provide versus they want
parents
it.
may feel that an outside provider.
Yes, okay, so both of those.
Correct.
Okay, great, thank you. You'd mentioned the sprinkler heads that first, I guess, froze. Is that what-
Exactly,
by that?
right, yes.
Okay, or is that covered by insurance at all, or the damages covered by?
Actually just had a meeting the other day, discussing that. We're gonna put in claims, but I don't think they're gonna meet the deductible threshold.
And then my last question, I guess, is more, I guess both of you, but more towards Frank, because I know we can do it. On the town side, when we go quarter to quarter, we compare what the estimates were at that point in time versus what they are the next quarter. Is there a way for you to provide us a similar report? Even if it's just for major categories to start with?
Okay, so
This way I can ask you questions on why it changed so much from last quarter.
Sure.
You understand what I'm asking you to?
Yeah, I don't know if I want to give you more ammo, but I could probably, I think that's easy enough to do, to put in a column. Like you said, I would try to start with,
I'm not asking for every single one of these breakout.
yeah,
I guess, just like we don't do that on the town side.
okay,
Okay, I'm not asking. So,
okay,
but I think for every one of these major categories.
Okay.
This way, if it's really off by some degree, I could ask the question of what changed from last quarter to this quarter.
Okay.
And then I can ask you the question. You can tell me what the.
I think your question's relevant, starting from Q2 on,
Yes.
because in Q1, we're only a month into the school year.
I understand. So I'm just asking for it for now, but then. And we see this well, so it's the first quarter on the town side.
Well, July, August, school's not in
Yeah.
session. I mean, we have some programs that are running.
Yeah. It would just be.
We don't start really paying anyone until
I think it'd be
September.
helpful for the board to have that. That's correct. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Yeah, Mr. Elwanger.
The surpluses that we're seeing in the health insurance and the Medicare have increased since the first quarter and will probably continue to increase at this point. We've had unfilled positions. We're so far into the school year, mid-February. Do you anticipate filling those positions and will we see those surpluses grow?
these estimates are based on our
So they're
projection to the end of the year. So
Uh,
I would expect it to be,
But they
I would
increased
say it would
a
be
bit
pretty-
from first quarter, which was your best guess, only 1 month then, obviously.
yeah, and as we get more data as the year goes on, then we adjust the estimate.
So is the assumption they're gonna stay unfilled then for the rest of the year?
Some of the positions, some are obviously that are critical are posted. But I think because new staff members have until the end of September to choose health insurance, whether they're a single, couple, or a family plan, I think that's where there's some uncertainty. We make assumptions, budget, and then they come to fruition, usually by October 1st or so.
I guess in terms of the utility reserve, that's more than enough to cover any overage now that winter's really taken hold with, at least with your utility gas and all.
Been a really cold spell since December 31st, so
Sure.
we're a little worried at what that's gonna look like.
That may just disappear. Agree.
Yeah, and the problem is we don't have data for the months where we see the most usage, so it's
Okay.
hard to say what it's gonna be, but yeah, for utilities, if you take from the 194 to the negative 40,533 and you net those out, I guess you could say that's total utilities projection, the net of those four.
If it gets too warm too quickly, we do have 3 new schools coming online with air conditioning this year that were previously air conditioned, so.
But then you'd use less heat. I don't know if it's an offset.
I'd like to use neither for a little while, just to get some reprieve.
Any other questions? No, I had two things. One, at our last quarterly, some of the board members had asked for some additional detail, and you guys provided that. So I just wanted to say thank you. Appreciate that. I trust that that was the detail that everyone was looking for.
Yeah.
There was a second item that, a follow-up item at our last quarterly, you obviously weren't here. Was a request to see a cost savings analysis for the utility expense. And I was expecting to see that tonight. If you guys don't have that, we can perhaps tack it on to the discussion next month when we go over your budget. Sure. I think there's an interest in this board to see that cost savings analysis related to the utilities. Now, we've hired this company to help project savings or deliver savings, and we just want to better understand how that's working and that working as
We have that for you, yeah. Completely slipped our mind.
fine. I did not send a follow-up on it, so that's also.
Apology there, yep. We did a small presentation to the board, not that long ago. I can't even remember. It's been a blur, but, and we do plan on having the Synergistics folks come in sometime in March to do a full presentation to the board. So we'll get you that as well.
Okay, great. All right, anything else for that? All right. Thank you.
That's going to be presented. If you can get that forward.
The link?
The link that or tell us what in a minute, Mark. So we can just kind of watch it. Makes the
Sure.
save on the questions here.
Okay.
We
too.
see
That's great.
And I could send you the slide, a couple of slides we presented to the
Yeah, that'd be
board
great.
already. So
Yeah, I'm just.
we'll get
we're
that
not
to you
trying beat
tomorrow.
the horse dead, but on the other hand, I think some of the questions about, well, if it works so well for you guys, why aren't we doing it on the town side? About risk. What happens if they're wrong? I mean, if it's a sure bet, like there's gonna be savings, then I think it's gonna do it. But if there's a risk that in a given year we can or understand it at least. Okay.
One thing.
Yeah.
This is more just the logistics going into the budget. Where did you guys land on what the budget book's gonna look like? We'll get for the Board of Ed, because I remember I looked at the stuff with the Board of Ed, there was some stuff in the backup that needed to be corrected. And there was a debate on whether the quarterly was gonna be in there, which when we have this, can be in there, can be not in there, but is that gonna be?
Yeah, so ultimately, there was typically like a revised budget column that we ultimately didn't include, but the information, this is better than whatever information we would have provided at that time. And then for supplemental backup, there was a request to add like the FTE analysis, so that's going to be in the BOE proposed book. There was, we basically whatever board feedback we got for the supplemental schedules in there, we're going to put in the BOE proposed book, which I expect to be mentioned in tomorrow, and then it will be available to everybody.
Thank you both, really. And David, thank you for joining. Happy birthday to your son.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right. That will take us to item number 5, which is the presentation of the town fiscal year 25 financial results through the second quarter. Our town CFO, Tom Harris, will be presenting, and our first select woman not here yet. She's got dual meetings because the RTM has a meeting tonight as well. That's why we're in this building, but she will be here later. Tom, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. The report in the backup summarizes the results for year-to-date and for the first quarter, as well as changes since the first quarter. I'm just going to hit the highlights. Year-to-date, we're expecting a surplus right now of about $2 million. That's about $700,000 lower than the first quarter. In terms of revenue, we expect to be 1.3 ahead of budget, which is down about 700,000 due to changes in tax revenue, which I'll speak to, investment income primarily. Expenses are going to be favorable to budget, a bit higher than the first quarter. In terms of the changes in the revenue line, tax revenues are down 500,000 from the first quarter. Collections are about 800,000 favorable, which is where they were the first quarter. But we have assumed that we will defer a tax sale that's budgeted this year until possibly next year. We haven't made a final decision on that yet, but we're looking at it in the context of the revalve and the budget for next year. So the decision would need to be made, I think, by April if we decide to do that. As we go through the year, though, it's something that we may revisit. But we just wanted to put that in as it's something that we're considering right now. Yes.
What's the reason for putting it off?
We want to look at where we are this year versus budget and look at the budget for next year. We still are working through the budget next year. And, in terms of what the revenue needs are to define the budget, I mean, that's just a consideration.
All right, you planned on having it, you told us we were gonna have it, now because what? Because we have a surplus, you're now
I
trying to.
said we may.
Okay, but the thought process is under the may, is maybe it would help us out for next year.
Possibly, yes.
I think that was the way we did things. Okay.
I don't think that makes any sense.
Yeah, I'll make that. You either plan it or you don't.
We have to make a decision by March, April.
No, but it doesn't even make sense that you could be making that decision. To me, it sounds like it should be done how you do any.
Well, I think we want to look at it. We want to look at it in the context of the reval, and it could impact, I don't, again, something we're considering. It could impact, tax collections next year. Which want to look really kind of talk through this with our town attorney and give a little bit more consideration to it. And so we're just highlighting it now as something that is under consideration and a decision has not been made.
So the first select woman who's in charge of this is basically putting her budget together right now. I guess she's got to release that in when? A week?
Yeah, it's good.
So basically, it's basically up to her on what she wants the tax rate to be and whether she's going to do this or not.
Well, yeah, again, I think, if we have tax sales in next year, we don't want to put into, we want to consider the impact that this is having on taxpayers. And so it's just something that we're going to consider. There is no decision made, but, we do have the revalve, obviously. We do have a budget that we're working through to fund. And if we have a surplus this year and we can defer that, that risk of someone losing their home this year, it's something. So again, there's no decision on it.
Okay. Other than they're going to get a large tax increase because of the revalve and the impacts of that plus.
Well, again, we want to look at it and we want to look at.
Charging them more taxes.
Yeah, we want to look holistically, we want to look at it kind of holistically, but again, there is no decision on this. It's just something we want to put out as, as a possibility.
Never heard of this, Tom, in 25 years, doing tax sales, that we push it off for 1 year to the next, the way you just described it. Never.
I think that's all, no, I think that's.
We've never talked about.
Well, I think that's always consideration as to how many, when you do them, how many you do. I think maybe you don't, it's not there's always that internal discussion.
But we don't have tax sales every year.
No, we do
No,
not.
we don't, but when we do have them, we've done them. Like when we talk about having them and it's announced that we're gonna have them, we do them. It's not like.
Yeah, I don't know that, frankly, I don't know that we've always done. I don't know that we have, David's not on us, but I don't know that we've done them every year. We've had them in the budget. But it's a planning, obviously we plan for it and we assess where we are and look at the impact that this could have as we move forward into next year. We try and look at it in a kind of a holistic point of view.
Tom, I apologize if I missed it at the start of this discussion, but what's the magnitude that we're talking about here?
500,000,
500,000.
yeah. So yeah, there was a decrease from the first quarter of 500,000, and it's because of the possibility. So again, that's something we will certainly
I just think it's a dangerous precedent set because you could have someone who's trying to get reelected, push it in. This is one of the reasons we went to a 4-year first selectment, so that we were having these zigzag tax increases. So the first year you're in office, Tom, I know you weren't here. You have your highest tax increase. Because, it had nothing to do with where we were financially. It was just like, you do it now, because people will forget by the next year, because you want to bring in a low tax rate the next year. So that's what people remember before they go into the voting box. Well, now, from what you're saying, it's gonna have, that's the election.
But, I mean, there's always, since I've been here, internal discussions about how many tax sales we have.
Yeah.
I mean, we have one in the budget. We considered this should we put in two? We put in one and we may or may not do that. So the question next year is, do we put in one or do we do two? I mean, it's not something that, is sort of a finite decision, I guess.
I would say like, I hear what you're saying that it does have an air of political calculation to it. That being said, practically speaking, $500,000 off the budget will not make a noticeable difference in the mill rate or people's actual taxes. So I don't think it's gonna have like the actual, political result, I don't think would materialize. If you think about the size of the grand list, the size of the budget and what $500,000 is in that scheme of things, like
It's gonna grow by a year, right?
it's what?
It's gonna grow by a year, right?
Not the tax sale, right?
Yeah, it will, because it'll be another year of taxes. These people who aren't paying
Yeah, but I
taxes
mean-
aren't all of a sudden gonna pay the 1 year's taxes, because you have to.
Yeah, but I mean, how much is it gonna grow by in 1 year?
I don't know. Right now, we're looking at a 6 to 8% tax increase just on the assessment. And
Yeah, no, I mean,
whatever, the Board of Ed just came in and they want like 5.5% increase.
It's gonna grow, but I mean, just think about how much you'd have to, even to take like, a little basis point off of the mill rate, think of how much the number has to be. It's a lot more than $500,000, a lot more than $600,000. So I agree that it does seem like, oh, why are we even considering this? But on the other hand, what would to what end?
I know, so why not just do the tax sale? Like,
Well, if there's-
saying what you're saying, just do the tax sale. It's
Well,
not
and I
gonna
guess,
change
I
the
mean,
number either way.
I guess if there's, I mean, it's worth, is
You
there?
can argue both ways.
I'm not,
It's not gonna be a big deal.
I'm not arguing it both ways. I'm saying that there's an error of political calculation, but I don't know that there's an actual policy or precedent that anytime you can do a tax sale, you do it. We haven't established that. You've sort of raised it, but we don't know that that's the case. Do we sell houses every year? I don't think we do. The minute that we're capable of doing it, do we always do it? I don't know that we actually do. So it's possible, but we have not established that there is actually a precedent or policy of always doing a tax sale every year that we do it. And since there is no actual political benefit to doing it, I think it sort of, militates towards giving the first selectman the benefit of the doubt before we establish that there's a precedent that she is doing an end around on.
I mean, really, this was sort of an internal discussion I had with the tax department, looking for, managing our revenue in the budget for next year. What are some things we can do? It was not a political on my part. So.
Yeah, and I'll withdraw saying that it even has an error, but I just don't think we've established that. It's a fair question you raised, but I've said my piece on it.
And do we know when the last time the town did do tax sales?
There was one, I believe, last year. Yeah.
And this particular piece would be one as
yes.
well? I don't know. To me, it seems like you either do it or you don't. It shouldn't be budget driven at all.
Yeah.
I mean, we can certainly put it back in. I don't, to put it back in is not gonna be.
No, I mean,
Because the other thing we're looking at is in the context of what happens with internal service fund, so, obviously if we have an issue there, that's gonna necessitate putting it back in this year.
We have surplus and we have plenty of money in our debt service fund.
But the internal service.
Certainly that's-
This assumes though that we transferred $3.6 million from the internal service fund to offset the medical costs. And there is, you know.
That's what we budgeted. is
Yeah,
what you're saying.
correct.
I presume these numbers are pretty easy to figure. Since 2010 to 2025. Can you get back to our board regarding how many tax sales?
Sure.
I mean, I guess like sort of the additional question would be, just to get to your point, would be, were there years when we could have done a tax sale, but we didn't?
We do one every year. I mean, we just make it policy. We just do one at the end of the year, we just do the tax sale. I mean, you could do that.
I'm not against it.
I mean, you know, for taxes that are over 3 years old or something like that. You know, not for what's just still owed, but choose some formula.
Some standard policy.
A lot longer than three years. So.
Well, whatever that is, whatever.
Yeah, I do imagine it's the last resort, but.
Yeah.
You think so?
It does.
I don't mind making the interest, to be quite honest with you. It's the best investment our town makes.
So the other negative swing on revenue is interest income. When we did the first quarter review, the investment balance the portfolio was around $260 million. It's back to sort of the normal level now, $235 million. But we also have had some bonds mature. The budget assumed that they would be reinvested at 3.75%. Right now, the rates were, I think, around 3.5% when we did the reinvestment. We've also had a couple of one bond calls, and that had a 4.75% rate, and it's being reinvested at 3.5%. We also had an adjustment for the income that gets allocated to WPCA or WPCU now for the first quarter. That was about $140,000. So we still, at this point, expect to be better than budget. You know, there is talk that there possibly will be a rate cut. The Fed meets in March. You know, I've heard is maybe it's 25 basis points. We have left the bonds that mature at a 3.5% rate in terms of reinvestment. So, and I think fees went up about $100,000 in the fire department. And on the expense side, we're going to be better than expenses due to vacancies. And there was a vacancy report. Back in the report. And basically, these are open positions. Positions that have been open for parts of the year. Some have been filled. The ones that are open the savings were estimated through the end of the year, or the estimated date at which they will be filled. So when we met during the first quarter, I mentioned that we've had, you know, turnover in the finance department. We still have a position, unfortunately, the senior accountant position that's still open. We are interviewing for that. And the senior auditor, as you know, is retiring, and we're interviewing for that. I guess the other item I want to.
Question. Stop by the county well at her retirement party at town hall. And it made me think, is the payroll position in the last 2 years or 3 years, have every single position in the finance department been turned over?
Yeah, that's what I said last. If you recall, I said at the last meeting, I began in January. Ben started in March. Caitlin left in July and Tony came on board in October. There was a staff accountant who, I think she went to the fire department, police department. And one of you guys. And we had a replacement who just come on board in November. And we have a position that's open. So yeah, and the only person who has been there, for a period of time now is the payroll person. So yeah, that's
hard to do.
well, it makes, it's tough to live with.
And there's only one retirement.
Retirements.
Who's the other retirement?
Caitlin retired.
Caitlin, no, she,
She retired.
Resigned.
She resigned.
She collecting a pension from the town.
She's 62.
I don't know what she retired. I don't think she's
Don't
out.
say she's 62, she'll come look for you.
Doesn't matter.
I've kind of gone through revenues and expenses before we talk about the internal service fund. So if there are other questions,
Yeah, Mr. Walsh.
Can I just ask you about the interest income? Say, I mean, I know you've been pretty good at doing your predictions. You looked at the spreadsheet and stuff like that. So you mentioned the Fed might reduce the rate if they do with the quarter. The rumor is
25 basis
25
points.
basis points. That'll bring it down to 3.25.
Correct.
If that were to happen, if you looked at the numbers on how much it would drop off. by-
About for
what is
the-
that word?
For the about $40,000.
About 40,000. So it wouldn't really affect it that much. So you still will, the way we're looking at it, there's definitely going to be a surplus.
There should be now, there are some agency bonds that could be called.
Okay.
And, so,
Why are we buying callable bonds in the first place?
well, I don't know. These are funds that have been in the portfolio for, yeah.
I have a question on the investment income too, I don't want to go too much in a rabbit hole, but it's always been on my mind too. Okay. We're taking portfolio at the time that you're creating the budget and assuming a rate of return and then calculating it, right? And last year we got a spreadsheet that showed us basically an actual schedule of the bonds, their coupon payments, when they would hit. And that gave us our, the estimate that we used. Okay, so when we have the investment income at the end of the year and we say, okay, we're favorable by however many $1 million. I guess my question is, how much of that is the income that accreted because we bought it at a discount, and how much of it is that what I just said there, but that is still unrealized because it's going to mature at a later date?
It's only the realized. So you basically what you have.
You're showing only the realized.
Oh, you're showing the cash that has come in, has collected.
Okay, so, yeah, so that's my question. So can this year we try to include in our calculation, not just the coupon payments, but also the income that will accrete and that we will realize?
We disclose it. We disclose it here. It is disclosed here. I mean, right now, year to date, I think it was 800,000, 824,000.
Where are you? Sorry, I'm
It's on the schedule, the revenue schedule, revenue and expenses.
Executive summary.
The executive summary, yeah. At the bottom.
Oh, I see, the footnote. So it's page 77 of the backup.
yeah, there you go. Excludes unrealized investment gains of 8. Okay. So the actual amount that we're showing here in a surplus is
Exclusive of that.
exclusive of that, right? So what I'm saying is, can we, for this year, try to budget better for, because I think we did not account for the fact that we were buying things for less than par value.
Well,
That's
I think that was, my understanding is that was a directive from the Board of Finance to exclude, my understanding, it was to exclude unrealized gains and losses. And I know that when we did the revenue transfer, there was concern about relying on the amount of unrealized gains because of volatility. So you have a gain one year, a loss next year. And, but again, I think, you know, if you guys decide that you want to include that, something we can include. The number last year was slightly in excess of $3 million in terms of the unrealized gains.
I think we're crossing each other. I'm not explaining myself. I'm saying, what I'm trying to understand is I think we did not correctly budget for the realized income. That we budgeted for interest payments on the bonds, but not additional income that we received at maturity.
No, we did.
We did budget for that.
Yeah. So when you get income, basically what happens, you get, you have, when bonds mature, obviously you have accrued interest. You get the cost plus accrued interest. And that's income, you know.
Right, but that wasn't in the backup.
And then you reinvest it in a new bond. You recognize the income and then you reinvest it in another bond.
You're always rolling it over.
Right. What's that?
You're constantly.
Correct. In general, I mean, there might be instances where you say you put it in a money market, but generally it kind of gets rolled over.
Okay, well, maybe we can talk offline about it, but yeah, I'm still, I don't know how we seem to be off a lot on it, and I feel like we can tighten it up more, but maybe not.
Mr. Mottola.
Are you gonna, you mentioned it, the internal service fund?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. If they're
Before we get there, I just wanted to comment, question, in terms of the backup, the exhibits provided, I'm looking at the executive summary on page 77, which is the green header. I just want to make sure, and also the next page 78, the next page 79. Am I reading those variances favorable to unfavorable correctly? Because it looks like we would have, it looks like the,
yeah, I should mention. So you can't, I mean, I guess what you want to do is you want to say we're halfway through the year, we should have spent half the budget, and in many instances we haven't. And the reason is that except for regular salaries, which are generally kind of straight line through the year, except for vacancies, other revenue and expense items are not necessarily straight line.
I know, my point is much more simple than
Okay.
that, Tom. I'm looking at, for example, I'm on page 79, which is I'm looking at the license and permits detail. Second line, building permits. The
Yes.
budget was 2.2 million, where actuals are
That's right.
2.8. So
He's
that would-
he's already over. his
right,
budget.
but the variance column is showing that as unfavorable. So I'm just I think the signs on that column just need to be flip-flopped for
Okay.
reporting purposes, that's all.
Okay.
It's favorable.
Yeah. No, it's just, I was looking at these numbers, positive, negative, I jumped to that first and then, yeah, and then either that or the budget and actual column are flip-flopped, but. Yes, Ms.
Just a quick question on the red light cameras, as I've been
Oh, yeah.
being very mindful as I pass the school zones daily.
Going slow.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
I know there's gonna be
So hard.
warnings,
Ridiculously slow.
but, yeah. What did we have in our budget through the second quarter, and how far are we off, and do we think we're gonna make it up?
I think the full year number was. roughly-
1.1.
Yeah, I was gonna
Full
say
year.
about 1 million, but, and have we started?
No.
No. Do we have a date in which?
We were told by the company that they've expedited UI's process, so we're hoping by April we are live.
Okay. And then, but then the first 30 days of being live, there's warnings. So we're really talking,
June.
I think the whole number, we should plan on a 0 for this year.
I think so.
Yeah.
We were thinking about 300,000 if that happens. I thought I read that somewhere in revenue.
Was it $1,000 reduction?
600.
reduction.
600,000, right?
I can't really figure out what you got going on this chart. It's very hard to follow. I mean,
Which
you
one?
say fines here, 310,000. I'm not sure what that even
What
means.
page you on there?
I don't know.
Page
I'm
that
on.
has
no-
revenues,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what that even means.
And then it talks about at the bottom, John, where it says fines.
In regard to
I got it, yep.
Yep.
So what is in the assumption now, that you're gonna just take it down 300?
Well, it says that
That's 300.
$300,000 our estimate for fiscal year.
That's not all the songs.
Yeah, so it'd be an $800,000 reduction.
So if I'm looking at this, it says the budget for fines was 1.1 million,
No,
right?
well, that's the whole budget for all fines.
I know that, yeah, and of the 1.4, 1.1 was the cameras.
Correct.
And we're taking it down to 310, or is that telling me we got 310 through the first half? It says actual. So it's through the first half of the year. So then the 1.1, the difference here, what is that telling me? It doesn't say favorable or unfavorable, it has nothing.
Which page are you on?
It doesn't have a page number.
78 on the backup. It's the one, the top of it is revenue.
That buried in other, I guess, is other.
It's right after the,
It's not user friendly, this thing.
Oh, I see, the 1.4 and 310, I see the numbers that you're quoting, yep.
Correct. So what is, so the 1.1 is just the difference, but what are we showing? I don't see anything saying favorable or unfavorable. There's no signs at all. To tell
Well,
us.
if I interpret this chart correctly, 1.4 was the budget, 310 is the new
Number.
It's the
number.
actual.
That's only for
the actual.
ones he's saying.
Others, there's an.
So what's for the
there's
forecast for the
answers
remaining
for others
6 months?
says it's fine. Down 670.
Yeah, it's in the summary, it's the six of
Well,
the,
nothing's sticking together.
I express just a formatting.
Mhm.
Mr. Walsh had made a comment to Frank about wanting to see quarter to quarter. What I did like about the presentation from the Board of Ed was that it's a forecast. I'm used to forecasts because, you know, it's you taking the exercise of saying, this is what is actual today, and everything that I know and project based on what I know today, what I think it's gonna be at the end of the year, and then giving me an idea of where you think it's gonna be at the end of the year versus with the budget for the full year.
right,
And, you know, percentages are like, you know, it's a waste of time. I mean, honestly, it's a waste of time. I don't even want to see a percentage because it's meaningless. So I know it takes more time because you have to go in and actually think about a line item and say, well, there's a lot of things I don't know or I can't predict, but you know, other than that, I don't know what the value is in going through these numbers the way they're being presented, to be honest.
I can't even follow it, actually. I spent my whole career doing budgeting and accounting, and I can't make heads or tails out of what this is even telling me.
So if I look at the page that you were just referring to, and Mr. Myers, to your point, if the first column's the full year budget, the second column is year-to-date actuals. At the first column to be inserted would be remainder of year forecast,
Yeah.
and then you add those two together to get a projected full year forecast. And then a variance of that column to the budget would be more meaningful.
That would be helpful.
let us see how much detail we can get on that.
And honestly, Tom, I think, I agree with you. I think that column where you're saying, what's it gonna look like between now and year end? If you know that it's a trend through actuals, it's gonna continue, you can extrapolate.
Right.
And if it's something, if the actuals include a one-time item, you can kind of go back to budget for the rest of the year. Or if you know that it's a timing issue, you can offset it in the rest of the year. And that can be top level. That doesn't have to be anything other than on the
Yeah.
summary.
Okay.
I guess back to the fines and the point you were raising, Mr. Ruggiero, we have 1.4 million budgeted, but of that 1.1 is the cameras.
Correct.
So we've gotten 0 from that, but we've already gotten the other 310,000 in the first 6 months. So we're ahead of pace in terms of revenue from fines.
What
right,
does
6
that
months
even
in.
from?
And we figure we'll get 300 from the red light camera, in June. So that'll bring us up to 6. We have 6 more months of more fine activity to see. So this variance of $1 million is gonna be a lot less. In a
What is the
year.
310 from in fines?
Is that the fire department?
Yeah,
Traffic?
yeah, I think we can explain that it's probably partially traffic enforcement by our officers and funding that is being sent back to us from the state after people pay their fines. Some of it, can't account for all of it. So,
I'd like to request, through you, Mr. Chairman, that until further notice, until we get a handle on these automated traffic enforcement safety devices, they be made its own, like their own line within our quarter. Because we don't even know where these numbers are going. Yep. We actually raised the amount at our board table during the budget. And it's kind of, that number's being kind of buried and we're asking lots of questions about it. So I think until further notice on future quarterlies that we break that number out, we have less questions.
We can do that.
Yeah, Mr. Myers.
I just have a question for you. You know, the fines that we levy, the police officers, that I guess those fines go to the state and then the state gives us a portion back. I don't know what that percentage is. With this new enforcement method procedure, what take does the state get on what we're gonna be collecting through this?
Zero. So
This is fantastic.
yeah, that's something to consider. You know, these cameras are, according to the company, suspected to bring in a certain dollar amount. But we don't know. Fairfield's unique. We are a unique town and we don't know where it'll go. And that's the concern is maybe month one, it's a high number. And then people realize that there's speed cameras there and that goes down drastically, but maybe not. You know, you never know. Driver behavior, as I've seen in my career, has gone up and down. But what's important to know too is that money that is coming from that, according to state statute, cannot go back to the general fund or police department budget directly. It has to go to public safety infrastructure. So wherever that money is being allocated to cannot be used on the police side.
Okay, so as a follow-up to that point, where in our projections, I guess, are you showing expenses coming down because we're not gonna have these funds?
Basically, the expenses would offset, you can use to offset the revenue. And we've assumed that the paving expenses would qualify as an offset.
Okay.
I mean, there are other expenses, but that was the major.
Yeah, I think what we were thinking was that at a point when we actually accumulated funds in this account and we were looking for things to do with that money,
Figure it out
we
then.
would then do these special street safety street projects.
Yeah.
And then in the meantime, we can be using sort of the pavement as a,
Whatever, yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
I just have a question. I'm sorry, we're still getting back.
No worries.
One thing to be considerate of is that our staff is going to have to manage this program. So I'm gonna have to assign officers to monitor this speed camera, evaluate it, et cetera. So yes, I'm gonna have an expense from it, but I'm not gonna get the reap the benefits of the collection.
I recall talking about that when this first came up. I thought the expense related to administering the program could be offset against the.
Yes, so certain tasks by the officers can be redirected to that.
Yeah.
It's just certain tasks. It's not, obviously, it's not all of them.
It's not everything. And then I'll just ask one follow-up, Chief. You in a previous meeting had mentioned that you're concerned that this program may not change behavior. In fact, it may cause people to try and speed up after school zones to try and make up the time that they just lost.
Yeah.
Is there any type of plan by your team to address that? Sure. And I imagine that if there's a ticket down the bottom of Mill Plain, that's going to the state. Sure, right, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So you should know this too, the speeding infractions are obviously up from our traffic unit. They're focusing specifically on speeding. Before and after these are gonna be our hotspots now, because we're anticipating people are going to make up time for this lost speed that they're trying to make up for. So yes, our traffic unit will deploy to certain areas and we'll come up with new hotspots now that we see speed increasing. The state tells me as recently as today that they're hoping that speeding infractions are no longer going to be considered just nominal. They want to hold people to speeding infractions. So we're hoping that with that comes more fines having to be paid, us having to have more revenue returned back to us because the city is not nollying them or avoiding them, et cetera.
Great, makes sense, okay. Okay, anything else on the revenues or expenses before we get on to the internal? Did you want to take us through anything specific?
Yeah, I think the big thing on the internal service fund is when we did the budget,
And what are you looking at specifically?
it's the schedule that's labeled internal.
That would make sense. And that is page 86 of the backup.
86, I believe.
And yeah, it's filling onto, and the verbiage is on 87. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm focusing on this the schedule that shows the fund balance. When we did the budget, we had assumed that the fund balance for the internal service fund would be around $10 to $12 million. There's been a significant change in the estimated reserve requirement. So when we did the budget at that point, the reserve requirement for heart and hypertension and workers' compensation was about $11 million. $11 million. And that has increased now by about $4.5 million, primarily because of updates in the reserve requirement for workers' compensation and heart and hypertension. What we have been told by the third-party administrator is that there have been very large claims for both workers' comp and heart and hypertension. However, in discussions with them, it seems that the assumptions used last year resulted in a reserve that should have been higher than it was. So, basically, they said, well, we've talked about the assumptions. So we modified the assumptions we used last year, but net, that's resulted in a very significant increase in the reserve this year. So that raises the question as to whether or not we will be able to use all of the transfer that we had planned to use to fund the budget. I mean, it's something we're going to continue to work on. We are going to have follow-up discussions with them. Just wanted to highlight that at this point.
So we relied on their assumptions, but their assumptions were inaccurate.
Yeah, and again, there are two parties here. We have the third-party administrator and we have Milliman. Milliman is not, in our opinion, is not the concern. The concern is with the third-party administrator. I mean, it just, and Joey's here. Why don't you come up, Joey, and sort of share a little bit of the discussion we had with him.
Yeah, so I guess to kind of highlight Tom's point. So Milliman came in with their audit, and issued us their findings and showed us that significant reserve increase. And when we spoke to Milliman on the phone multiple occasions, they said basically it was based on the reserves that PMA, our third-party administrator for workers' comp, made in terms of changes to the reserves. That didn't sit well with us, so we contacted PMA and we had a conversation with them. And we started off by asking what their reserving strategies were, how they reserved, and so forth. And their initial answer was we reserve to what they call ultimate. In workers' comp, that's what we think the ultimate cost of that claim is going to be. Medical indemnity, which is your salary continuation, and then any permanent partial disability or maximum medical improvement ratings that an injured employee would receive at the end of that period of time. We then went back to Milliman, and that conversation continued, where they were able to show us that these reserves by PMA had dramatic fluctuations from year to year. We finally got PMA on the phone. We talked to their claims folks, their claims managers, and so forth, and it was communicated to us that they did not reserve to their reserving strategy, reserving the ultimate, and therefore when these liabilities came due, they had to adjust the reserves, which showed huge swings in the cost of the claims. We immediately put in a special handling instruction to the third-party administrator that any claim swing or any reserve that there was going to be a change above $25,000, which seems like a lot, but in the world of workers' comp with medicals, it's not. Anything above $25,000 needed to be sent to me directly for review, comment, conversation. And we also have begun other aspects of looking at the relationship with that. When we went back to Milliman and explained to them what the actual reserve changes were and asked them to take that into account, Milliman was very leery of being able to make any reserve changes based on the volatility of PMA's reserving strategy, because there was no confidence that they were reserving appropriately.
And the concern is to see that kind of volatility in 1 year. I mean, just, so we did have a number of discussions with them, but I don't think that we've heard anything that give us a lot of confidence.
Can you're looking at getting a different administrator then?
Well, we are gonna,
Okay.
It was very unacceptable to us. And we've begun the scope of work to go on to that. And there's some additional conversations to be had regarding what road do we go down?
Was there anything unusual about the claims that they were reviewing, or are they kind of run-of-the-mill claims that they should have figured it out?
well, there was some, there
was a heart and
there was a large
hypertension.
one.
There was a heart and hypertension claim that turned into what they call a fatality. The person passed away. That creates survivor benefits per statute.
That can happen.
That could happen. There was a couple surgeries that went bad, but the swing and increases in the reserves, even though a surgery went bad, you should not see $100,000 swing and increase. You should be saying, this is going to be my ultimate, maybe I'm X dollars over that, but we're looking at some really significant changes.
Well, instead of a portion.
Correct.
Okay, so what's your timing to get this scope out? And
I'm working with Adam Tulin, the purchasing agent, and actually Prue. And we're in the process of, he's looking at helping me put together the bid package. So he's got my bid spec requirements. And then we're gonna decide that. There's another avenue in terms of insurance that we could go down, but we have to have a little bit more of a detailed conversation on what that is and how that would potentially benefit the town.
Are there, I mean, I know PMA from where I work. Are there a lot of other administrators that do this work?
Yes, there's in Connecticut, there's probably 3, maybe 4 others that are respected that could do the third-party administration work. And then there's always the guaranteed cost avenue.
So we're looking at some options going forward, but right now, we're gonna.
Sure, I get
That's the choice.
yeah, okay. Appreciate the update. Questions? Mr. Myers?
Can I just ask some formatting questions about this chart here? The one that has the roll forward of 7/1/24 through 6/30/25 accrual basis.
Yes.
Okay, so you have a balance on accrual basis at 6/30/25 of 5.434774. See that?
Yeah.
Okay, and then like 3 lines below it, you have a fund balance 6/30/25 of 8647990. What causes that difference?
So, okay, so the 5.4 million is really, if you look at the 12.047, that was in the annual report last year.
Okay,
The activity, the items between, after that is really transactions that have occurred through the end of the year. So that's just what's been booked,
through the end of what year?
2025. I'm sorry,
Fiscal year.
fiscal year 25.
Okay,
And then the really, what you want to look at after that is the 15.5 million down below, which is the reserve requirement.
okay, so that's
That's an actuary's report,
an actuary's report
Right.
as of what day?
as of 6/30/25.
Okay, so 6/30/25.
The sort of the items in between assets, liability, those just internal bookkeeping things.
Right, so to a layperson, what does that mean? If
So
there's
what this
15
means is
million
you've got
under accrual, but
15,
going
you've
at
got
500.
15 million, 15.5 million of accruals.
Yeah,
You've got assets of 21 million, so you have a net fund balance of $5.5 million.
The
difference-
21,191 less
That's
the
the
15,5.
correct.
So how does the,
Which, yeah, we gonna let the assets, those are just internal note we probably didn't.
okay, so if I just like forgot the 12,543 and the 8,647, right? If I just get that out of my head, right? Just pretend it's not on this piece of paper.
Mhm.
And just take the 21 less the 15.
Correct, that's
Okay.
that's your fund balance.
That, does that by chance come to the 5,434, or is that just a coincidence? That's not,
It doesn't happen.
is that? add
It's a
up?
coincidence, it's just a coincidence.
It's a coincidence. Okay. So this schedule is constantly changing every day.
Correct.
Because of the
Correct.
actuals.
Yeah, and some of
If I
this,
looked at this, like you could send me the same thing as of
Yeah.
July 1st, but it would only
It'll
have the
check, yeah.
actuals through July 1st. This
Yeah.
is showing me actuals through, how long ago?
as of, this is showing actions through the end of the fiscal year.
June 30th.
Oh, so why wouldn't why wouldn't this be able to reflect like today?
You could, we can show you the activity today.
Yeah.
But, you're not gonna do an actual up, you're not gonna do that every day.
Okay.
Now, we can show you, for instance, the general liabilities, I think we had an audit of that, so for the year.
Okay. All right.
okay. Other questions on the internal service? Great. Joe, thank you, appreciate it. Now, one of the things that we also had, I don't know if we want to consider this an update on the town side, but we were looking to get an update on the plowing actual versus budget, and this might be a good time to squeeze that in. Make sense?
We have a maestro here.
Yeah,
Let me get my snow stuff.
all right.
It's gonna be great news.
Well, Farmer Almanac says we're through the rough stuff already. All right, so now we'll get an update on the DPW snow removal or snow related activity year to date. So thank you for providing the update and thanks for coming tonight.
Fantastic. Snow overtime is busted. Sorry to say. We budget $308,000 for snow overtime. Up to about 446,000. Just to give a little bit of an idea, we had so far 9 events. Last year we had 13. Last year, our last one ended in February 20th. We're looking at a little bit of snow possibly this next week. You're kind of watching it to see which way it goes. But so regarding the overtime, I'm about 138,000 over right now. Some of that from other lines. Hope to make that up, some, at least a good portion of it, as long as we don't get killed by any snowstorms.
Like I said, last year, we didn't have any in March or April. Hopefully that goes the same course now. February, we had last year 7 storms. Just in the month of February, we've only had 2.5, if you want to call it so far this February.
Seems like that year's so much worse than last year.
The problem with snowstorms and overtime is it's not just always just so many inches, it's duration of, it's when it hits. I think we all know we're getting tired of every weekend, it seems like it's snowing. You know, we had some that wasn't that big of a snowstorm. It started, we cleaned up everything thinking we were going home shortly, and then it started up again, and then we were right back at it, and wound up being like a 26-hour snowstorm to address. The other item that's over is salt, that treated salt that we use. Probably about $11,500 over right now. Now, this item is part of my materials for repair in the DPW operations budget. That budget also addresses items that are for building maintenance of buildings. And it also addresses other highway needs, whether it's block materials, aggregate, lumber, guardrails, litany of items. That will probably be able to make up by just being a little more conservative to look at other items. The one thing that we like to do is at the end of the year, whatever money we have over, is to fill our salt dome up. I consider normally about $200,000, but then, you know, for the budget, that's why I'm over right now. But come the end of the year, when everything's settled out and looking like we're gonna have a surplus, hopefully, like we did last year, and I think the year before, we go and fill up, will help us through this year, get through that. The other item is meals and food, which is probably a couple thousand, or based on union contract and how it's interpreted, we end up paying for meals at the diners for the guys when they're over working a certain amount of hours at night. The other ones that would hit it that I consider is contractors. I usually figure about $30,000 for contractors. We're only at about 26,000. So I'm still, you know, saving a couple $1,000 there once we don't get anything big. Generally, we handle most storms that are small or just salting. Where we had the last big one, we ended up having to pull in a couple of pulling a contractor for that. Generally, we would not need a contractor if it's 4 inches or less. We can pretty much handle that with our trucks and equipment. Small items also is your fuel. You know, and that's just a guesstimate as to, you know, how many miles. We do track how many miles they do on each snow route that they're going over, how many report how many started that snowstorm, how many they ended. I take a rough guess, maybe 8 gallons per mile, and okay, we use so many gallons and
8 gallons per mile?
Yeah, you're talking a big truck. And then a lot of times you're pushing snow and you're talking a truck that's, you know, got loaded with salt and everything else. It's not making it. And plus there's a lot of times where they're just sitting idle, you know, to stay warm and all. You know, our general snowstorm is, you know, you put out the salt and you let the snow come down, and you gotta get the salt out first so that you don't create that, you kind of break up that layer between the snow and ice form pavement. And, you know, it's tough teaching the guys, you know, where they, okay, it's snowing, I want to go, but you gotta let the salt do its job, and you kind of just wait a little bit until it starts to build up, and then you go out and get enough to start plowing to plow. Other minor items, I said meals, contractors, fuel, and so we have some savings in fuel. I think we used about 14,000, and like I say, that's a guess. I might budget for 20,000 That's a big estimate, obviously. Repairs and blades, we're doing very well. I only budgeted about 5,000. And we're only about 2,500. We've gone to some of these, invested in some of these carbon steel blades, carbide blades that will last several storms. Some will last the whole season. They're a bigger upfront cost, but they're, there's a savings in the long run based on not just the time that they're having to come in off the road. You have a truck gets in the north end, his blade starts to wear down, you gotta come all the way down. We have guys in the mechanic space, they operate like a pit stop crew. They're all set up, ready to go and have blades ready, bolts ready, everything else, and they're in and out pretty quick, but you're still taking the guy off his normal route. So there's savings in that. So, you know, providing that we don't have any more large storms, you know, I'm hoping to be able to handle it to within our normal budget. I'm not asking for anyone. Maybe the fire department will bail me out like I did last. But I don't expect to.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, yeah, sure.
So, you've obviously probably heard some of these things are online about after the 26-hour storm. And obviously we have alternate side of the street paving. So let me just ask you, parking for emergency vehicles to be able to. Is there ever a thought to do then the next day do opposite side of the street parking where you switch the side and then plow that side? Because on a number of these streets, especially where they're tight, it's now hard to get by because, you know, they parked on that side. Now you've done a good job of plowing the other side. And now those cars are parked on the other side, but you're taking up 4 to 6 feet of roadway with snow that has not been plowed. So I guess the question is, have you spoken with, you made a recommendation, your department made a recommendation, spoke to the first select woman and the police and fire about, you know, after a storm such as that, to do the other opposite side of the street parking and then finish, you go around, or is that just too much money to do that?
What happened, there are some towns that will say, okay, it's alternate side street parking that will change at midnight, but you're not gonna get people going out at
Yeah,
midnight.
understood.
There's some that will try and say, okay, 7 in the morning, hopefully that you'll do that. The issue is getting the people to actually dig their cars out when you have a big storm like this, to be able to move them all to the other side to go down it. And what also happens at that point in time, you get a lot of irate people saying, okay, the snowstorm came, I cleared out my driveway, and if I go back 2 or 3 days later and now push all the snow back in from the other side, they're like, you know, what are you doing to me? You know, my contractor already came and left, and now because you know it's a next day over, I'm trying to bail out again from. We have gone back in and cleaned up certain major roads that following some of these big storms like this, where we actually shut the road down when police helps us out. We turn around and, you know, get vehicles to be moved, and then we're actually having to truck it out ourselves. This is one where we had to.
I show you do that on Sherman Street.
Where we had to haul snow.
Where you had to close the road down.
Right.
And then use a payloader. Okay. Was it just too much snow?
There's a lot of snow for one snowstorm.
Okay.
And we haven't had, you know, I heard reports saying, you know, it's been 10 years since we had something over 14, 15 inches like we have.
Yeah.
And this is what happens. You know, and one of the other big problems with this snowstorm was it stayed cold.
Yeah.
There was no melt in, it stayed cold, it froze up like a rock right after that. And people were saying, I can't do it, you know, and we've had to go back to some places where when we actually pushed the snow up in front of someone's mailbox or something. It's one thing when we're going by it and it's natural float snow coming off the plow, puts the snow in front, but there are certain intersections you get to where, or cul-de-sacs, and, you know, guys trying to find out where can I push this? And there's been somewhere we actually had, you know, some got pushed in front of a mailbox and turns to a rock. So we've had to go back and open up a few of them. Same thing in stacking some intersections where we actually plowed it onto the corner where there's a crosswalk going into it. I get it. I mean, some of that's on us where if we put it there as a pile because there's no place else to put it, then yeah, we gotta go back. Otherwise, then the residents have to.
Once it freezes up like that, can you not plow it any longer? Destroy the truck?
You're probably looking at using payloaders when it's a rock like that to dig it out.
I just don't think a lot of people understand.
Yeah.
It's your job.
That's fine.
My philosophy is, it's winter time. Just freaking deal with it, people. I'm just.
No. That's your philosophy all year round.
Yeah,
Just deal with it.
And I appreciate, it just some of the things you read are just mind boggling, and it is what it is. You don't get 20 inches of snow that.
Well, I think you guys did a great job, so thank you, and thank you for.
That's not until.
All right, thank you.
All right, so with that, we'll move on to item number 6, which is to hear from our internal auditor, Connie Saxel. Welcome and thanks for joining us. And of course, I personally want to congratulate you, and I know the whole board does want to congratulate you on your retirement. And you will certainly be missed. It's been a pleasure to work with you over the last several years since I've been on this board. You've been nothing but a most consummate professional. And we really appreciate you coming tonight and giving us a chance to hear from you one last time.
Well, thank you very much. And it's been an honor and a pleasure to work with the town of Fairfield for the last 34 and a half years. And I've worked with the Board of Finance Audit Subcommittee and the entire Board of Finance since 1999. And it's been a wonderful experience. And I've not only, it's been bittersweet because I truly will miss the town of Fairfield. However, I am looking forward to enjoying retirement years and spending time with family and doing all the things that I never found the time that I could do while I was working full time. So, but thank you very much. And you know, and I'm always here to help. I told Mr. Harris, our CFO, that if he ever needed me for assistance, I'm happy to come back and help at any time.
Great, thank you. And for the public's benefit, the backup for this discussion starts on page 117 of the online backup. So with that, we'll get started.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. For those of you who do not know me, I'm Connie Saxel, Town Internal Auditor. I have 4 audit reports that have been stamped final to present to you tonight. These reports have already been discussed and reviewed with the first select person, the CFO, the controller, other town officials, and applicable department heads at our monthly internal audit meetings. I'll focus on the most significant findings and recommendations made within these reports, and please feel free to ask any questions that you may have. First one was an audit of Parking Authority revenue collections for fiscal year 25.
Chief, do you want to join her at the front?
Sure.
For this discussion? We've got Chief Harris here as well. So you can join in for the first audit. Thank you. Sorry.
As I said, the first audit is Parking Authority revenue collections fiscal year 2025, and also the assistance with the transition from the Parking Authority to the Parking Department. An audit of the Parking Authority revenue collections for the 4-month period from March 1 through June 30th, 25 was conducted. And the purpose of this audit was to ensure that all revenue generated by the Parking Authority was properly collected, deposited, and recorded on deposit transmittals submitted to finance and were for the correct general ledger revenue accounts and for the correct dollar amounts. Also to assist with the transition of the parking authority, which was Fund 699, to the parking department, which is now General Fund 10. No errors were noted in amounts of department revenue collection and associated deposits during the time period examined. There were some deviations from town policy amongst town department transmittals submitted to finance noted during the audit. The town deposit transmittal policies and procedures document was distributed to department personnel, and the requirements of the policy were explained to them. They agreed to comply with town policy going forward. And of course, this was under the jurisdiction of the former parking authority. And now the parking department falls under the jurisdiction of the police department, starting July 1, 2025. There was an audit finding. A review of bicycle lockers rented by the parking department revealed that 9 people had possessed keys to lockers at the Fairfield and Southport train stations, but they had not paid the required annual fee. The locker keys had not been returned by the customers to the parking department, even though they had been requested to do so by department staff. It was recommended that the police department contact the delinquent bicycle customers and request the annual rental payment if they wish to continue to rent these lockers, or request them to return the locker key. As follow-up, per the audit recommendation, the parking department contacted all delinquent bicycle locker renters, and these customers have all paid the proper rent due to the town as of the date of this audit report. Revenue for the parking department is now being recorded in the town general fund. Bank reconciliations are up to date. The finance department is now in charge of collecting rent for the 7 lessees that previously fell under the jurisdiction of the former parking authority. Its rental income is now recorded in the town general fund. Do you have any questions on the parking department?
Mr. Myers. Do they accept credit cards?
Yes, yes, they do.
What percentage is credit card versus check?
What percentage are we receiving,
Most
or?
people pay by credit card or check?
I would, as a total guess, I would imagine people are paying by credit card now with the ease that we had. That's a new thing for our department. So since the implementation of our credit card machine, we've seen increases of payment through the credit card machine. So I would only imagine that credit card is this way at this point.
It is a convenient form of payment, and customers are using it more often rather than paying by check or PIN and such. It's predominantly credit card revenue that's coming in.
Why don't we just force people to play with by credit card or some machine that they can do, get a token? I don't care what it is, but why do we even have the $300 in petty cash? We're trying to get rid of cash at every place we have. Why not just continue it there?
Yes, that would be a town management decision. They have done that at the solid waste and
Yeah.
recycling. So they no longer collect cash, which I'm happy about. Predominantly is credit card payment. That is something that can be adopted by the parking authority department. That would be a management
All right,
decision.
can we bring that up in another, when we have a time and we can talk to Tom Harris about that and maybe bring the first select board in about it? I'm trying to get rid of cash in almost every single.
Parks and Rec.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're slowly moving in all towards cards.
The other question I had was, in reading your audit, I just want to make sure I read these numbers right. $35, right? And the units cost $2,000. So in my calculation, if we never had a repair, which we're gonna have repairs because you're already seeing it, it's 57 years to collect our money back. Why is that?
It is
why-
not
why
it is not a
so
money
low?
generator.
No,
I'm
I'm
not
not saying
sure
to
where.
generate money, but how about trying to get our money back in a reasonable amount of time?
Right.
Plus the money,
years.
this is
I'm not
like a money loser.
Yeah, I'm not sure why the fee is so low. That's something that can be reconsidered in
All right.
perhaps raising the fee. I think it was more of a convenience for town commuters to give them the opportunity to lock.
I know, but I mean, if you want to do that, then let's give every single person at the train station an umbrella. I mean, you know.
That's a good idea.
I mean,
Well, again, this was under the.
That way I won't have to pick my wife up at it.
Exactly.
This
No, we're
was
gonna
a-
cook, maybe a Canada goose.
In all seriousness, I'm assuming that these rates were set by the parking.
Yes, I was just going to say that.
Legacy, right? So now.
These are rates that were established,
Be revisited.
right, by the
All
town
right,
parking
Who would
rate.
do that? Is that the police department that sets these rates? Is it, the parking department reports to who? You?
They report to, the parking department reports to me, yeah,
Okay.
overseen by Captain Rosari.
Okay.
We're in the process of changing a vendor now for the parking department. In the past, under the parking authority, they used a vendor called Passport. You know, we've been working with purchasing to change that vendor. My vision is to modernize how we handle parking in the town of Fairfield, both on street and at the train stations. So we were in fact had a meeting with one of the vendors negotiating costs. All of these fees that you're seeing are going to be subject to change to be better for the town.
I think the police commission would be the oversight for that, so that, you know, one department's not haphazardly making a change to whatever it is. The police commission, as we would do for any fee within the police department, the police commission would vote on it to make a decision.
So maybe I could ask a follow-up as you meet with the police commission. I know that the Board of Finance is interested in this and the transition from the parking authority to the town. And I think whether it's the locker fees or whether it's parking spaces at the train station, all of those things, if there are gonna be changes, and likely there should be, like from the bottom up, like what's the thought process behind it? And to me, like if a locker costs $2,000, we should be recouping that cost over a reasonable amount of time, right? And
It's a repair cost.
Yeah.
There's a number that.
So, and obviously bike lockers are a small ticket item, but that's a perfect example, right? And I think if there's a change to the structure at all, it should be approved by the police commission, but we'd love to get a presentation on where the dust is gonna land. Because the flip side of the coin for the town of Fairfield residents is there was some concern about the parking authority being dissolved and moved into the town and how that might affect commuters. I think to date, service hasn't changed. And if the rates haven't changed, there's been no effect to the commuters. But if there is a potential rate change, I think this board needs to be aware of it, and it would be good to know the rationale to support those changes. So, thank you.
And I know this, just to add to that, and I know this audit did not cover expenses, but now the town takes over all the expenses. So one of those expenses is snow removal. How many people were all over the line saying how horribly the parking lot was plowed. At least that was their opinion. I don't go down there, so I have no opinion on it myself, other than what I read. And, you know, Mr. Gerber was trying to sell this to us. One of the things he said was that there would be better services, that he was getting complaints from people that was not being well managed. Well, now the same complaints are starting to come in, and now it's all on the town. So maybe some of that can be addressed on what happened. Is DPW having to do too much down there, or was it just too major of a storm, like we just talked about on the streets? And it was just too much snow, froze over, similar things.
A lot of times you go down there, you'll see cars parked in the middle of a snowstorm, and a heck of a lot you can do to remove snow.
Yeah.
Parks have to work around a lot.
The snow stays there, so.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Any other questions on this particular audit? No. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You can stay, I'm doing audit. The next audit report is an audit of maintenance and repairs automotive expenditures for all town departments fiscal year 25. The purpose of the audit was to ensure that expenditures and charges to maintenance and repairs of automotive accounts, which is Munis Object 54330, incurred by all town departments for fiscal year 25 were correctly applied to the appropriate budgetary account. And this audit was conducted upon the request of the Board of Finance. Audit review of expenditures charged to department budgetary accounts revealed that some expenditures were improperly charged by various departments to their respective maintenance and repair automotive accounts. These expenditures should have properly been charged to capital outlay. The purpose of properly recording and classifying expenditures within their appropriate budgetary accounts is crucial in achieving a true and accurate financial accounting of what departments are actually spending in different areas of operation and for effective budgeting. It also allows outside parties to effectively analyze department financial performance and make informed decisions governing actual department spending. Audit recommendation: purchases of machinery, vehicles, and especially upfits and modifications or capital improvements to any town vehicle should be charged to the department's capital outlay, as this is part of the asset's historical cost and is a direct cost incurred to get the vehicle ready for its intended use. Including upfit modification costs and capital outlay also assists finance in obtaining an accurate accounting of the vehicle's total historical cost for fixed asset accounting and recording purposes. Audit recommendation: it is recommended that the glossary of revenue and expenditures by account, which are detailed account definitions and which used to be included in past budget books, be updated and redistributed to all departments. And it should also be reincorporated in the annual budget book for outside party knowledge and understanding. Further, greater emphasis should be placed during the finance and purchasing review approval stage of the departmental purchase requisitions to ensure that the proper budgetary accounts for the requested purchases are correct. Follow-up. A follow-up review was conducted for fiscal years 23, 24, and 2026. Similarly to fiscal year 25, some capital expenditures were also noted in fiscal year 23 and 24 as being charged to maintenance and repair automotive by departments. However, none were noted in fiscal year 26 to date. And this could be directly attributed to the new pink voucher policy that went into effect August 2025, which placed greater restrictions on payments of departmental goods and services using this method. Pink vouchers may now only be used at year-end closing upon notification of the controller and for payroll deductions by finance or departmental petty cash reimbursements. Further, higher levels of purchase requisition reviews and approvals were also implemented effective August 2025. All departmental purchases, other than those specific pink voucher exceptions previously mentioned, must now be placed via purchase requisition in Munis and must now undergo multiple levels of reviews and approvals by supervisors, department heads, purchasing, budget, and finance prior to their conversion to a purchase order. This will assist in capturing and correcting expenditures charged to incorrect budgetary accounts, as well as placing higher levels of reviews and approvals over what departments are actually purchasing. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Penley.
So a question about what happens with a requisition. You mentioned Munis too. Is it not something else now?
No, it is, you're thinking of Paycom, our payroll is Paycom, but now we use Munis for,
I was
use
thinking,
Munis for everything.
I thought there was a different application that we're using for purchases. Am I? Or,
Purchasing.
That's for the bidding
Yeah, that's
process.
for tracking bidding and that sort of thing.
okay, so I have a really basic mechanical question. So when you enter a requisition, there's like a field where you have to enter the correct budgetary account?
Yes.
Okay, so that's already in place.
Correct.
So it's just people maybe not knowing the right one or for
Maybe
other reasons?
not knowing the right one, and perhaps if it went on pink voucher, it didn't go through the purchasing department review process. So things could have slipped through that way, but now that we've placed greater restrictions on these pink vouchers, everything is going through Munis, through the purchase requisition process. And as I said, there's now various levels of reviews and approvals, and they get rejected if it's an incorrect account, if there is not appropriate backup to support it, if it's not properly bid, et cetera.
Thanks.
Yes, Ms. Ruggiero.
Thank you. The $146,000 of misclassified, was that, what time period does that represent?
And that was for fiscal year 2025, the entire 12-month period.
And the recommendation is to push this back into the individual budget.
Well, if it is truly an expenditure that pertains to the repair maintenance of a vehicle, it should be charged to that account. However, if you're trying to purchase a truck or a motor vehicle, brand new item like that, it should go to capital outlay. And sometimes departments putting them in incorrect budgetary account.
So for the budget that we're gonna see, do you know how you guys, did you put any of this back into your budgets? For the upcoming budget?
So,
No?
no, so, we did make a request for a vehicle, and it was actually rejected, for 2 vehicles that were rejected so far, so otherwise, but it would have been in 57000.
Which is capital.
Just capital.
But like for you, you would have $40,000, that looks like expense.
I think you're asking him for.
Should have gone to your
reclass.
budget.
You're asking for reclass, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So did you
No, it
put
wasn't.
an incremental amount of money in fire, for example? Say you have 40,000, that should have actually hit their budget.
No, it's not reclass.
I mean, the 67 that's for the police was for the special vehicle. That's a non-recurring event, obviously. So that wouldn't, that's kind of a moot point. But some of the others, I mean, I think you guys, you would have lost that money. I guess we'll discuss it when we get to the budget, but it certainly those look like legitimate maintenance things that should have gone to your budget.
But Tom, why wasn't it reclassed? Because the audit's not done. You haven't submitted, you've submitted your stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, we can reclass it.
I mean, shouldn't that be the proper way it does so that our fixed asset accounting, we're correct on our numbers? I mean, this is not, it's not a small number.
Well, relative to, relative to the balance sheet, it's small and we can reclass it.
Seems like, I mean, where do we stand with that whole?
We're trying to get,
We're gonna have to ask for another extension at.
we hope to have it done this month, February, in February.
It just seems to me it should be properly reclassed to the right amount. This is a very concerning audit. Started coming out, as you all know, with seeing how some of these vehicles were paid for. And I'm not blaming, because I don't think a lot of it was any of your decisions. I mean, clearly, I can't believe we're still talking about this, but clearly on the fire department, on your 4 vehicles, it was David Becker who told you to charge it to that account, correct?
The three vehicles you're
I
talking
thought it
about?
was 4. There's 4 vehicles.
Well, the other one,
One
the mechanic?
2024, one 2025.
let's see. Oh, well,
Well, actually, there was an ARPA 2025. Which were the vehicles that he told you to charge it?
the Tahoes.
The Tahoes. Not the Explorer.
No, the Explorer, I believe, came out of ARPA. So,
So it's just the rate, but even the Explorer that came out of ARPA, you had a charge into, well, it's not that very big of a charge, but you still had an upfit charge, correct?
So the upfit was for the mechanic's truck, the Ford F-450 mechanic's truck that came out of
Okay.
capital outlay.
It came out of capital outlay, but 5,200
Yes, yes, but
was that Mr. Becker's decision as well? Did he tell you to do that?
he told us which accounts to take them things out of. He was the chief financial officer at the time.
Okay. obviously not that good a one, because he told you to put it in the wrong accounts, correct? That's what this all shows. I mean, to the tune of $39,800. So, and then that's 14% basically, 13.92 to be exact, of your total maintenance, repair and maintenance, right? So does that mean that when I see your budget now, you're gonna be down 14% there? Because obviously you were able to keep all the rest of the vehicles maintained and repaired last year for 14% less. So it's almost like it was like overstated.
Yeah, I'm not sure that would apply though, because these expenses, I agree that the classification is an issue, but these were for specific upfits. And if I heard you correctly, Chief, that you don't have any new vehicles in the current budget, so you won't have the upfits either. So if you're talking about upfit expense.
No, what I'm saying is that the repair and maintenance budget is, as Ms. Saxel put in her report and discussed here tonight, was supposed to be for repairs and maintenance. And these were never supposed to be part of repairs. So therefore, your repairs and maintenance, if you follow the definition the town has always had about what that is, which I hope goes in the budget book as well, just to remind everybody. You should have, I hope you're not going to be following that same number, because you'd be over by 14%. Unless you had a really horrible year in repairs and maintenance.
Well, so last year we had a budget of $290,000 and it was reduced for this year to $275,000. So I think.
So they took that into account.
I guess they did.
Okay, well, that's a high point that we're taking that into account. And then why would I don't think Mr. Becker told you to do this unless you tell me differently. This fire safe boat replacement, why did that get in repairs?
Yeah, so when we put the down payment down on the fireboat replacement, which hasn't arrived yet, we didn't, there was a delta where we didn't have enough money at the end of everything. So we just said take that delta out of this account.
So that'd be in a situation where at the end of the year, you realize you were over, as opposed to specifically like using it as a funding source per car. That was just a delta in your department. That's where you're using to cover it. It's at $3,700.
That's what we were directed to do.
Okay. Okay. And then, so Chief, I just want to be clear. I'm not, putting blame on your department, because if you have the CFO, Mr. Becker, telling you to do it, you have to follow what he says, correct? Okay. And now on the police department, similarly, Mr. Becker put through a car for himself, souped up with the Texas package, all fancied out for his emergency management vehicle. Our boys heard exhaustively and was all in about $170,000, $67,286 went to a company called Norcom, which you were to absorb. Was there, those funds were available? Like were they supposed to be used for repairs and maintenance of other vehicles? Because clearly your department had come to us for a budget and asked for a certain amount of money, and now they're taking $67,286 out of that.
Yeah, those two were bills that we received unbeknownst to us, that were outstanding balances as a result of his vehicle purchase and whichever type of outfit he decided to do. Okay. And now those were leftover bills that we had to come up with to pay that number. Norcom is the upfitter for his vehicle.
We learned all about that company.
Yep. And radios.
And radios.
Also. Yep.
Radio. Okay. So is there maintenance and repairs to your vehicles for your department that were not done because your funds were used to pay for Mr. Becker's fancy car?
And do you know the answer to that?
Tom, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we finished with favorability in that budget line at the end of the year. And I believe that these expenses hit the FY25. So we were in a good place with the maintenance and repair of our vehicles. But my understanding is that these outstanding bills, because we inherited that vehicle, we then became responsible for paying those outstanding upfit bills to Norcom.
So you were favorable, but you would have been more favorable.
Would have been more favorable.
Would you have used that favorability, or have you used that favorability in that department when your cars have gotten like totaled or needed repairs because of major accidents? Because in this case, you had to use the outside jobs fund, right, to replace those cars. So we didn't have insurance, which I'm very happy our new risk manager has figured out how much money we're going to save to insure. So thank you for that. But would you have technically, or in the past, you used those funds in that area to pay out some of those claims?
Yeah, and not to replace a full vehicle, we wouldn't be able to do that,
Okay,
but
yeah.
for repairs, yeah.
For example, if a bumper on a car was damaged.
Yes.
And we had one that was in the garage that looked like it went through a war in Afghanistan, we probably put the bumper that went through the war on the car and suffered with it for a little bit until the next fiscal year. So yes, would we have a higher standard in Fairfield? We want new equipment on our vehicles so that we have this maintained the standard. What we probably had done was take a light that was faded off of a car that was crashed and had two different color lights at the time.
Okay.
Again, not our standard, but something we had to do.
Okay, so based on, I'm gonna ask you the same question I asked our great fire chief over here. But it says that 18.6% of your repair and maintenance budget went to buy David Becker's emergency management vehicle with bells and whistles. Is your repair and maintenance budget going down this year like the chief says?
Well, ours starts at a negative 196,000, so I don't know how much further down we can really go.
Okay, that's what you're being told, $196,000 less?
Well, a couple of years back, because of the amount of favorability, we end in because that budget line gets funded by outside job.
Sure.
It was cut about $200,000.
Okay.
So for the last 2 years and looking again at FY27, we're anticipating the starting line for that budget is going to be negative 100.
Is that get a transfer?
Because funds transfer in from the outside job vendors.
You had mentioned before that one of the reasons you went to Suburban, right? Or no, the Tahoe was because the other cars you were burning out engines or transmissions, one of the two. Is that where those funds would normally come from to replace an engine, or?
It was out of warranty.
It was out of
Yeah.
warranty. How long's the warranty on those cars?
The Tahoe's warranty for drivetrain is 100,000 miles. 5 years, if I'm not mistaken, something 5 years, 100,000. Obviously, we hit the 100,000 pretty quick.
Okay.
So
sure,
a lot of things come out of that.
Okay. And
what we try to do is, while it's still under warranty, is take it to the shop to have everything fixed if it's if we're noticing a problem.
Okay. So you didn't learn about these two invoices for Norcom until after the basically the audit committee of the Board of Finance and then the whole Board of Finance found out about these Norcom bills. Connie couldn't find the invoices either, correct?
Yep, correct. We had to research with Norcom directly to inquire if there was any outstanding balance, and that's when they gave us this.
Okay. And those were found and they were applied, even though the fiscal year 25 had come to an end on June 30th. You didn't find out till way after that, correct? Okay. Okay. And then public works, John, are you in a position to talk about those?
A little bit, sure.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you some of the same questions.
Okay.
The buying, purchasing of this Ford Transit vehicle, is that a truck or something like that? Or-
The van was purchased, yes, out of the capital outlay itself and fit out for the cell pipes.
Okay. Was done with, yeah, I read the report. I didn't understand what that whole fit out was, so.
Yeah,
there's equipment needed.
this is so that it's a van where we are.
Okay. Did you guys make that decision to do this? Or did
Uh,
Mr. Becker make that decision as well?
I can't verify that for sure. We did it, capital outlay was full, and we knew we were at the end of the year and had the extra money.
Okay. All right, and then the same thing with the what's the Chevrolet Silverado assist steps? What are those?
I asked about, a couple months ago, I remembered what it was when this was done. I don't remember exactly. It's not just this step. I think there was some repairs. Unless Connie has more detail on it, I don't remember.
Okay, so those came out of your repairs and maintenance line, and to the tune of, that was like 10% of your total maintenance and repair line. Are you being reduced in this upcoming budget that you've been told by 10% or more?
I don't believe so. I didn't have to increase that budget for since the 4 years on from here. So I'm keeping it flat and assuming that your cost of parts and equipment have gone up. So,
Yeah, I'd asked you before, because we purchased so many new trucks,
we're doing
we're doing very well, because obviously a lot of the trucks are on the newer side than they used to be, correct?
correct.
Okay. I mean, can you do with a 10% haircut to that number or no? Because I guess the question is why was there those funds there? This is the whole thing, like, for everybody, it's just like, when we're looking at these numbers, you know, Connie raised some good points. Some of it has to do with properly doing it for fixed asset accounting. Some of it has to do with how things should be funded. Another part of it is what's coming up, as you gentlemen all know, and ladies all know, is dealing with a budget that we're trying to presume is as accurate as possible. But yet there's these pockets of large amounts of money that one rogue chief financial officer thought he could start pulling money out and do whatever he wanted with it.
Yeah. When we're budgeting for the amount of equipment that we have, when you look at the total dollar amount of equipment that we have.
Yep.
Repairs that are done, when you have a transmission on a large truck or back end of the backhoe, there's significant numbers. Will it break or not? That's, you know, can we get it replaced before we have that major problem? That's the issue, you know, where the budget numbers go by and what we look at and say, okay, we survived the previous year, we seem to be having new equipment. Yes, that number would probably be good to keep going, and that's why we don't ask for any additional.
Okay. But I presume everybody, well, also, okay. So John, thank you for answering those questions. There's one other department that's left, which is WPCA. Is anybody here? WPCA?
I don't think so, no. But it's at a $2,000 number, I didn't.
It's not the $2,000 number. What's the number for? What's the 17,000? I'm having a hard time understanding that. At the bottom, below the 2,000,
Right.
it says that they bought a truck or something. What is that? What is the
Explain that.
17,905 for?
So the total budget, total expenditures in that account was 17.5. That was what they spent on automotive repairs and maintenance. out of that, the 2,000 of it was
Okay.
basically an improvement to a Ford that they had purchased. So that was 11.17% of their total expenditure.
Did anybody tell you, Connie, since they're not here to represent themselves, who told them to do that? Was that
I
a
did-
department decision?
No, I think
or
it was a
that David
department
Becker?
decision, speaking with Mr. Cody at WPCF. They needed to purchase this part for this particular Ford F-350 and took it out of that account.
So Connie, are you comfortable that there's been enough education across the board, speaking to folks that
I
this
think
type of,
as a result of, we've had meetings at the town hall with the first select person, CFO, and the applicable department heads that are identified in this audit, and they are aware that people are looking now in the budgetary and purchasing review process. They're aware of what should and should not go into these accounts. And unfortunately, some of the department heads here, they were instructed by higher authority
that's the problem that I think is the
to
one.
apply the expenditure there, so.
Matola, yeah. You've been very
So-
patient, thank you.
This is for 2025 only.
Yes, and I,
Did you get a sense that stuff like that's been going on for a number of years because people just or they should be doing it this way? Or is it just for this, is 2025 an outlier? And anyone can answer this question. I'm not being critical of anyone. I'm just curious, trying to understand whether it was for this 1 year or is it just kind of the way things have been done for a while? Does anybody have an idea?
I could say on behalf of the police department, we've been operating our budget for years and taking things out appropriately.
Yeah,
We've
okay.
been put in, we were put in a position at one particular time. Was odd, but nothing we could have done about it.
Yeah, perfect. All right, thank you. I don't know. How about you, Chief of the Fire Department? Same thing? Okay. Well, thank you for answering the question. Thank you.
All right. If no other questions,
I just have one quick question. When we had discussed the NORCOM originally, there was no accrual made at the year-end financials because the expense was not known. Did that get adjusted in the financial
Yes,
statements?
Yes, good question.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. You know, I recall that there. Okay, well,
Thank you.
great. So
I
that,
would suggest, Tom, that the new auditor, I guess, who comes in to try to fill Connie's shoes, maybe revisit this because, you know,
Follow up.
as our former chairwoman, Ms. Charlton used to say, it's not just on finding whatever, how does things change and checking on it afterwards and following up with other mini audits to make sure that the changes have been
behaviors changed, yeah.
So, you know, obviously not in a year or two, I mean, generally I'm not, but I think it's other departments. What are the other checks and balances? Is the controller supposed to sign this? Is our external auditor, our independent auditor, Mr. Centofanti, I know that they do checks, random checks on departments, right?
Right.
And none of this has ever been found, correct? I've never seen it come up in an audit.
This was my first time around.
It's only been for 2025 apparently,
Well,
too.
I know, I just don't know whether anything happened in other years. And did he find it this time, this year? You've seen his audit results.
Yeah, he's still in the midst of his audit, so he hasn't raised anything he hasn't raised any issues with us at this point.
Okay.
Can I just add something to what you're saying? Because I'd mentioned one time before, and really, Connie, like you're going out. If you think this is a stupid idea, tell me. First time.
yeah, I'm retired now. Let me tell it like it is.
I think I'd suggested before that there just be standard spot audits of purchasing in different departments.
Yes.
That really seems to me, I mean, you do great audits in a lot of different areas, but so much of what I've seen in my brief time on the board has been related that you can tie it back to purchasing and you know, additionally, it seems like everything here happened in various exceptions to the ordinary procurement process. And so that's a known gap. So you even, following up on it is a great idea, but so is picking another department, like you said, pick another department, look at the exceptions, the procurements that were made under exceptions, think about your policy, maybe see what you find there. But I really think, and I would really advocate for considering having the new auditor come in and, begin focusing on just spot auditing purchases in different departments. I mean, it's great to audit all IT, all of our processes, but I think that particularly for this board would be helpful, and maybe enlightening.
Direct that here because she's already retired.
I wanted her to tell me it was
No, I
stupid.
agree,
I wanted her to tell me it was
Yes,
stupid.
I have done audits of bidding processes, expenditures, revenues. There's just so many departments and so many areas
Yeah.
and so many hours in the day and I try to cover as much as I can in various realms of the town.
Yeah, you've done a great job. You've always, just as you're going away, you've always really struck me as a real ace. So lots of the town.
Yeah.
Two more to come.
That leaves with one question. I mean, you raised some very good points and Connie, I just picked it up on your answer. So in your humble opinion, it's now being retired. Do you think we need to add a second auditor? Because I know you served with a second auditor. When I
Yes.
first met you, there was another woman.
When I was hired, there were 2 internal auditors.
Yeah.
And the town charter does say 1 or more internal auditors. There were 2 internal auditors. We worked as a team. It was great. I really enjoyed that. And we covered a lot of ground with, obviously, more people means more areas of the town are being looked at. And, more recommendations and improvements can be made. So up until probably, I started in 91, up until about 1998, the auditor left on maternity leave and decided to be a stay-at-home mom and didn't come back. At that time, they decided not to fill the position and the position never was refilled and became 1 auditor.
And then you were down to part-time.
Yes, and then staffing, my position became, yes, part financial accounting and then part internal audit. And then Board of Finance says, no, we need a full-time internal audit. So that's where I am now, but I do agree. I think 2 auditors definitely can cover a lot of ground.
Well, it just seems every audit you do, we learn stuff. Like there's always failures, every single audit.
And there's also positives too.
There are positives.
Yeah.
There are positives. And we're going to be talking about another audit that came up that you had no results on, which was great. Like, not the whole thing, but on a lot of areas. So.
Speaking of which, we do have 2 more audits to get to and.
Okay.
Get back onto the agenda if you don't mind. So, Connie, do you need these gentlemen any longer?
No, I think you are off the hook.
All right, thank you, Connie.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll move forward.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, so I just want to make sure to get to the right
Take care.
for this piece. 1 second.
Which one's the next?
We're doing IT next, right?
Yes, audit of IT.
Jerry,
So you're on your.
yeah, and this backup starts on page 147 of the online version, and we do have our IT director, Dave Kelly, with us. Thank you for joining us, Dave. And Connie, why don't you take us through this one?
This is an audit of Information Technology Department, Security of Town Information Technology Systems. This audit was conducted upon the request of the Chief Fiscal Officer. And the purpose of this audit was to evaluate the adequacy of the town's information technology security policies and procedures, to provide reasonable assurance that town resources are protected from access by unauthorized personnel, evaluate the adequacy of the town IT disaster recovery business continuity plan to help mitigate service interruptions, and review the adequacy of the overall IT internal control system. Audit finding: town employees must participate in an annual security awareness training. Primary purpose of the training is to educate employees on cybersecurity threats and best practices in order to protect the town's data, systems, and assets. It's noted that not all town employees have participated in the required annual security awareness training. Although reminders to complete the required training are sent to non-compliant employees, there are no consequences imposed by management if an employee does not fulfill the training requirement. Audit recommendation: ramifications or consequences should be imposed by town management to employees who do not participate in the required training. As a follow-up, this recommendation was discussed at our monthly internal audit meeting with management. In the town is in favor of implementing stronger measures, such as denying non-compliant employees town computer access until the required training is completed. The second finding, the IT department does not have a formal documented disaster recovery plan in place. A well-structured, documented IT disaster recovery plan is crucial for the town in order to minimize disruption and ensure continued operations if a disaster should occur. It safeguards critical data and maintains operational continuity. It is recommended that a disaster recovery plan be formally documented, communicated with IT staff, and posted on the share drive for IT staff knowledge and understanding. Once the plan is formally in place, it should be implemented and tested by the department on an annual basis. Further, the plan should be regularly reviewed and updated by the director of IT. As follow-up, the town risk manager and the director of IT are currently working together to formulate a formal documented disaster recovery plan. Our audit finding: a review of IT employee domain rights and permissions was conducted. Domain permissions define the level of access that users have within a domain, such as computers, files, databases, and shared printers. These permissions authorize user access within the IT system, such as reading, writing, modifying specific resources, and granting access to sensitive data. It's noted that one member of the IT department has elevated domain permissions and full access rights, which allow him to create accounts and make other IT modifications. However, although this employee is budgeted as part of the IT department payroll, he is not directly supervised by the director of IT. Rather, this employee works under the jurisdiction and supervision of the town librarian. He focuses daily tasks on library, main and branch computer needs. Due to the elevated level of permissions currently granted to this employee, in conjunction with the lack of direct town IT department supervision, the town system could possibly be compromised. I had recommended that the IT department either continue to provide these elevated domain permissions and change the reporting structure so the identified employee works in tandem with the town IT department staff and require him to report directly to the town director of IT, so a proper level of supervision is instituted. Or alternatively, remove and or limit the elevated domain permissions and allow the employee to service the town library. As follow-up, the IT department is limiting the elevated domain permissions for this employee and will grant elevated IT permissions only on an as-needed basis upon request by the employee to the director of IT. And lastly, the IT department has not been subject to an independent third-party external IT audit by experts in this field. This will include an in-depth review or evaluation of internal controls and assessment of other vital operational controls to ensure the overall safety and security of town systems, information, and data. I had recommended that an independent third-party audit of the IT department by professionals in this field be conducted in the near future. This would provide the town with an unbiased opinion on the security measures currently in place and would identify weaknesses and areas of improvements within other aspects of the town's technology by a company who are experts in this field. And it should be noted that there would be a cost associated with retaining these professional services. Do you have any questions?
Meyer.
Yes, through the chair to Mr. Kelly. Hi, Dave. I was actually pretty shocked that the town does not have a formal disaster recovery plan. I mean, just my experience, with all the ransomware that's out there today, it's almost more likely that it will happen than it won't happen. And I think just the days of, we'll get through it, it's just really not wise. So I'm happy to hear that you and our risk manager are putting together this plan, but if you could just give some comments as to why we don't have one.
Well, when I first started with the town, we were in no position to, quite frankly, recover from a major disaster. My time over the years has been working to reorganize the department, get the right staff in place, and to change our systems so that we can recover from a disaster, be it a natural or man-made disaster. I'm very happy. I'm very glad that Connie didn't audit us, 4 years ago, let's say. But quietly in the background, we've been trying to upgrade our systems and upgrade our processes and our software and our people so that we can recover from an event. Writing a plan but not having the ability to execute it was obviously pointless. I'm very happy to hear that Mr. Barbera seems to have quite a bit of experience in actually formally documenting a process and procedure once a disaster occurs. But the fact that we don't have a plan, don't take that as we don't have a method or planned system for doing a recovery. It's just getting it formalized in an appropriate way is something that we hadn't gotten to, but I'm very happy to know that Mr. Rivera has a lot of experience in this and will help us get something down.
And then just as a follow-up, I mean, what about just the security of our systems and our assets and our backups and whatnot? Is there an offsite backup somewhere for everything that we do in the town?
Multiple. So we do nearline backup. We do backup to an alternate data center in another town, and we do air-gapped tape backups. And we are currently also experimenting with cloud backup. So yes, we have multiple copies of everything with various restore point objective times, so that we can either just back up to when before a disaster hits or something goes wrong, or if we have to, we can go all the way back to tape, which are stored, I think, 40 miles away from town.
Walsh.
Steve, I'm not sure whether you were with us when one of our former chairmen used to harp on this every single year, Tom Flynn, about having a disaster recovery plan. Were you in your position at that point in time, or was that before you?
Might have been before. I knew Tom Flynn, but I don't recall that being one of his.
It's not the first time the board has asked for this. The board is asking for it. I think at least 4 years in a row, asking it from your predecessor then, and was promised that it would be in place, and really nothing happened. I mean, I think near your offices.
I'm sorry.
I think a lot of our data was being stored in servers in town hall that were in the basement in a flood zone.
Yeah. So when I came, that was one of my very first projects that came before the boards was to get our critical servers out of the basement of town hall, which is in the floodplain and it's 8 feet below sea level. And we are now in the most hardened building that the town owns at this time with our data center.
Well, that's good to know, because during Storm Sandy, the fire department was in your town hall, Sullivan Independence Hall, with pumps trying to pump water out of the basement.
I heard that, yes. And there's still water in the basement since then. Yeah. A heavy rainstorm puts water in our basement.
So how long, I mean, it's just time to kind of put this to an end. So how long do you think it would take? When we're sitting here a year from now, is this disaster recovery plan gonna be in place?
I think Mr. Barbera and I feel that we need to get it done this spring because cyber insurers are probably going to require it to keep us insured going forward.
They'd be smart if they want to keep their money in their pockets.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Then I saw you're taking care of the employee requirements section that Connie talked about and getting your people up to stuff on their training. Hear me about the training of your employees. You're gonna get them caught up.
Well, you're talking about the training for all town employees?
No, yes.
Oh,
yes.
yes. So actually, the Chief of Staff, Christine Brown, has been right on top of that this time. And I'm sending her updated lists of who still hasn't completed it, and she is following up with department heads to get it done. So I think we're going to get everybody done by this spring. So this training cycle will be complete.
Dave, on that point, are you sending, is there an automated process to send an employee an email that says you're delinquent in provide, is it actually done manually?
No, well, we come up with a training program, a set of training modules once a year as our annual training, and the employee gets a weekly reminder until they finish it. So when we start the new campaign, which we did third week of December, we said you have 21 days to complete this. And after that, every 7 days, they get another alert saying you're overdue.
But is that email that it goes out, is the overdue email an automated process?
Yes.
Or manual?
Yes, it's automatic. I designed that into the training definition.
Okay, and is there a way to escalate that so that the first warning goes to the employee, and then the second warning goes to the employee and the manager, and the third one goes to the employee, the manager, and the chief of staff?
No, the system does not know the relationship of the employee and their manager and their, that person's manager. But as I said, Christine Brown has asked me every couple of weeks now for the updated list of who hasn't completed the training, and she is personally going to the department heads and getting them to get it done.
Yeah, and this is an administration question, but I do think there needs to be a consequence for someone who's delinquent.
I mean, after
It's not acceptable.
yeah, after 3 or 4 times, there has to be disciplined.
Yeah.
Administrative leave.
And I get that it's not.
We have had those discussions.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. All right. Anything else on the IT?
Yes. This employee reports to you, I guess, in a way, but also reports to the librarian. Why are they still in your budget? Why aren't they just in the library's budget?
It's being moved this year.
Okay. So it's being moved. And can you hear me, Dave?
Yes.
Okay. So it's being moved, and then you're going to change the permissions of that employee?
Yeah,
what they can do?
Yeah, we're trying to, so yes, the position had been budgeted in the library for years, and there was an attempt during an employee reorganization 3 or 4 years ago to consolidate all of the IT workers into one department rather than having different workers reporting in different places. But it did not complete in the library, but the budget move had already been made. So it's been sitting in my budget kind of in error for a couple of years, and that's being rectified this year.
Okay. I'm definitely well in favor of the IT audit, like bringing in a professional. Are you going to try to put that in your budget for this coming year?
I did not ask for it in this coming year.
Okay. Do you have any idea how much that would cost, like in round numbers, like 50,000, 100,000?
I think the Board of Education did something like this a couple of years ago, and I believe it was a little over 50,000.
All right. I think it'd be more than worthwhile to do. We could talk about it during our budget season.
And can someone, Tom Harris or you, Dave, find out what the cost of that would be?
Informed decision. Yeah.
And Dave, do you know companies that you would trust to do that, or do you think the Board of Ed use somebody who's reputable that you'd wanna?
I don't know of companies offhand that do this kind of thing.
Okay.
I frankly, I think someone other than I should select.
Right, as I was saying that, I was thinking the same thing. We should have your friend at another company to do.
Yeah.
You gotta go to DK Associates. Go through the bid process anyway.
Accounting firms generally.
Yeah, Deloitte and, yeah, the accounting firms would absolutely.
I think the Board of Ed went out to bid for it somehow.
Okay, okay. The last section I want to talk to you about is the town email of people continuing to have town emails and access to our systems after they are no longer employed, because I don't know another employer that does that. The only thing I know of recent memory is GE, because Jack Welch stayed on as like an emeritus, whatever. They wanted him to have an GE email address. But I would imagine many of the people in this room all know when my employer terminates somebody, their email is cut off while they're being told they're either leaving or as soon as they've told us they're leaving.
The same is true here. I'm wondering if there's a misunderstanding. So when an employee separates, the account is closed. But we are often asked to retain the mailbox so that a department head can review any mail that continues to come into the mailbox, or to maintain their file share so that their department head or a successor may be able to access that data. Just because someone leaves doesn't mean that the data just disappears, gets cut off, and it doesn't mean that the whole world knows to stop sending email to their email address. So as a concession, the employee themselves is locked out. There isn't a security issue with regard to the separated employee, but the email mailbox and the personal file share are not necessarily deleted right away for business continuity reasons. In fact, I sent out a list last week of, hey, here are 10 people. Can I delete these accounts now? It's been 6 months, it's been a year. And I got an email back just today saying, please keep these 2 people because we're still reviewing the files or monitoring the email for that person. So so don't hear that the separated employee continues to have email rights or whatever. That is not the case.
Okay, Connie, did you find that to be the case in every instance that you found?
Well, I did find a number of names in the email distribution list of employees who were no longer employed with the town of Fairfield. It was also my understanding that there are some email permissions granted to the police department and upper administrative staff after they retire as a courtesy. But however, I did speak to Mr. Kelly about the email names still being on the email distribution for the town. And he said, as he just spoke, he said, we do retain them for a period of time in case someone is not aware that the person's retired, they've left employment, and they're still sending emails.
So it's not
So-
that the
So now-
access to it.
Instead, so they can read these emails. However, we did say after a period of time, perhaps after a year, to shut off.
Okay, because there was some like allegation that's out there that our former chief of police, Chief Liddy, was still using his account after he was no longer employed. Not that it was open for the new chief to get his emails. Is that the case? Was that the case? Can you find out whether he was sending emails out as himself when he's no longer the chief of our police department?
I think that actually you are correct with respect to Chief Liddy. There had been a tradition of ex-police chiefs keeping their accounts. The new police chief has changed that, and his rule is 6 months. So actually, we just recently closed the prior police chief's email account in addition to Mr. Liddy's.
Okay, so I don't understand. Why would a police chief who's no longer the police chief of our department still be able to send out emails from the town of Fairfield representing himself as though he's an employee of the town of Fairfield?
It was a prior practice as explained to me when I first started working here years ago.
Okay, so no. So now what's the policy now? When a police chief leaves, that day that he leaves, his email is turned off?
6 months.
Why 6 months? Why is it 6 months?
That's what we.
Explain to me why it would be 6 months and a police chief could still issue emails that could potentially make this town liable for his or her actions. It makes no sense whatsoever. And I'd like, since I see our town attorney on here, and I'm sure he's billing, I'd like to know what your opinion is on that and whether he could bind the town with his email address.
He's not gonna be able to answer that question. I mean, what do you mean, can he bind the town?
He can do anything
No,
he
he
wants.
can't.
He
No,
looks
he
like he's an employee of the town of Fairfield.
That's not true. That's
Yes,
a
it is.
general
Yes, it
statement
is.
that is not
I'm asking
accurate.
my question to Mr. Pierce. Do you think that this is a good practice? That an employee of the town of Fairfield who no longer works with us still can be sending out town of Fairfield emails?
That's a different question than what you asked previously.
So I'd like to know more about the policy and the reasons behind it, but I would have concerns about someone who's not acting on behalf of the town that has the right to send out emails. So I do think that's something we should look at.
Is it safe to say that if it's not the policy today, that going forward, we can have a policy that just says regardless of who the individual is, police chief or otherwise, if someone's no longer an employee of the town, their access to a town web or town email account is terminated. And I understand for continuity purposes that the town may want to keep that account open for access by the manager or the successor. But I do think, I wholeheartedly agree with the points that were made. The idea that someone who's not on the payroll or employed by the town, they shouldn't have access to an email after they're gone.
I agree to that. It's easier for IT to just slam the door than to deal with these little exceptions.
Yeah.
And I agree, it makes no sense. It doesn't necessarily mean the town's gonna be liable, but it's a dumb practice, no doubt about it.
There's privacy issues that come up as well. I mean, a police chief, when he's in his role as police chief, maybe can see certain things about investigations.
No. The email account did not include that. The email account was only email access. And I can't explain why the police chiefs did that in the past.
So what would prevent the town, this isn't really a Board of Finance thing, but what would prevent the town from just adopting a policy that says across the board?
Nothing. Unless Chief Paris has an explanation or reason for the 6-month thing.
But even if he does have an explanation, it may not be a reasonable one.
Could it be that, could it be that there needs to be some consultation between the old chief and the new chief and you have to exchange
Well,
things?
I don't know why they couldn't do that with, the new chief
Private.
couldn't send something to the old chief's personal email address.
That could be it too.
I mean, I don't understand why that can't be done. I mean,
Contact information changes once they're terminated, right?
yeah, I mean, because somebody could still think that in the town hall, still think by mistake, oh, this is the chief of police's email address and forget to have changed it. and send something to the old chief that he's privacy wise was not supposed to see because he's no longer in the role.
I think
So
it's.
I don't know, I'd ask the first
Seems like an
select
easy
woman
solution.
to work with the town attorney
Shut
and
it
the
off.
IT department. And if you guys can, when you make a decision about it, if you can just report back to us.
Yeah, got it on the follow-up. Okay, good. All right, can we move on to the final audit?
Thanks, Dave. for that audit.
Oh, you're welcome.
Appreciate it. And Phil Pierce, town attorney, thank you for joining.
The last audit.
What goes along with mine?
Hopefully there's
I had a goal and I did not
This
meet.
is a short one.
So that was my effort to get this concluded by 10. So Phil, thank you for joining. And we're about to hear the fourth audit from Connie that relates to the Phil Pile restitution.
Yes, correct. And this is the, as stated, audit Phil Pile restitution payment status as of November 13, 2025. And this audit was conducted upon the request of the first select person. The purpose of this audit was to ensure that the town of Fairfield is receiving proper restitution payments for court order or settlement agreement and is properly depositing and recording all receipts in appropriate general ledger revenue. Audit finding, the review of restitution payments made to the town of Fairfield as of November 15, 2025 revealed that several of the defendants were in arrears. The total in arrears was $395,169. It is recommended that the town contact each defendant's probation audit officer regarding the status of restitution payments and, if necessary, have the court enforce each delinquent order of restitution as civil judgments for the amounts owed by the defendants. This will assist the town in receiving delinquent payments owed to them. As follow-up, the town attorney has been notified, he's here at this meeting tonight, and is aware of the payments that are in arrears and is reaching out to adult probation about recouping these payments. After the finalization of the audit report, one defendant, Mr. Carey, paid his restitution payment due to the town in full and is no longer in arrears. No further payments are due from him. Audit finding, it was noted that one defendant had paid his court-ordered amount of $10,000 to the town of Fairfield. This payment was required to go into a victim's compensation fund. However, the check was deposited into the Phil Pile Remediation Recoveries Restitution account. It is recommended that the town confirm with the prosecutor regarding the intent of this defendant's payment and determine, one, whether these funds should more appropriately be held in a special fund by the town of Fairfield for potential future use towards victims of the Phil Pile, or two, if these funds should be resubmitted to the State Office of Victims Services for their monitoring and distribution toward victims of the Phil Pile. Follow-up, per discussions with the town attorney, this revenue should be treated separately from the Phil Pile Remediation Fund. The town controller has been notified and the funds will be recorded separately and held for future use of victims of the Phil Pile. And my final audit recommendation was that the restitution payment schedule that is attached to this final audit report be updated on a regular basis. And further, the town attorney and first select person should be notified by finance whenever defendant payments fall into arrears, so they can take appropriate action for collection. This will assist in ensuring that the town properly receives the money that it is entitled to. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, before we jump into questions, Phil, did you want to chime in at all on any of this? I know obviously it's a litigation issue, so we have to be a little bit sensitive, but is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, so just to, I just want to clarify how the payments are made and received by the town. So we do not receive them directly. And that is, I think, the large reason for why things appear delinquent. They go first to the Office of Adult Probation, and then we receive a check from the state. So we're not receiving checks directly from, well, some of these checks we do receive directly, but the payments now that are being monitored by adult probation are going through the state. They're not coming to us directly. So for example, with Brian Carey, we received just a couple weeks ago, one lump sum for the balance of his restitution. And it did not come from him directly. It came from the Office of Adult Probation. And we had not received an update from them that they had received this money. You know, that they may have been just collecting the batch payments and then sent us one payment at the end. So it's collected by adult probation. The first instance, we get a check back from the state. They are conditions of their criminal sentence. So if they violate them, that would be the subject of further proceedings in the criminal courts. And as the internal auditor noted, we do have the right to have this enforced civilly. To do that, we have to get an affidavit from the state department that's monitoring compliance, so here the Office of Adult Probation, about the delinquent amount, and then it can be recorded as a civil judgment. Personally, I don't think that's necessary yet because I think, you know, the payments are we're still within the probationary periods, and the payments are being monitored by adult probation right now.
So I just want to ask you a couple of follow-up questions before we open it up.
Yep.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, it may just be a timing or reporting issue through the state, and that some of these funds may have been collected by the state and not yet delivered or distributed to the town. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct. I mean, there's necessarily going to be some amount of delay in us getting the payments because the state has to receive them, process them, and then cut us back a check.
Okay, and then one of the recommendations from our auditor was to contact the probation officers. Would that kind of circumvent the process that this is going through in terms of the state, or would that be?
No, and we have checked in with adult probation. We're going to do it again on the Julian payment because they should be able to have confirmation whether that was made now, because that's a few months at this point. My expectation is that is.
So just so I'm clear, so it's not that we're informing the probation officers that the town hasn't received payment from these people. It's following up with the probation officers or department to find out if they've received.
Correct.
Okay, so it's different than how I thought it.
Yeah, right. They receive it in the first instance and then they transmit it to us. So they will know before us. The state knows before us if they are delinquent in their payments, and before they are released of that obligation, the court would have a hearing and we'd get notice of it. But in speaking with the prosecutor that prosecuted these cases, she thinks it's highly unlikely that any of these would ever get modified. So, you know, there's in my view, based on my discussions with her, there's a high likelihood that all these payments will be made, because if they don't, they're in violation of the terms of their either their probation to get probation, or in the case of now Mr. Hipson, Mr. Carey, the same thing. I mean, they got AR, so they're not going to lose their AR over 20 grand.
Right. And then one last follow-up before I open it up. There was a point that was made in terms of where this money would, at least for one of the defendants, was deposited, and it should have gone to a victims fund versus our bill pile remediation fund. Isn't the town of Fairfield a victim here? Like, wouldn't it be appropriate for that money to go into the remediation?
No, so that money is not intended to be compensation to the town of Fairfield as a victim. It is a fund that the judge created by way of the restitution order to fund damages related to really town employees, current and former, so they can make claims on that fund for testing and other medical.
Okay, so it's
claims. So it should be. I agree with the conclusion of the audit and.
Okay, so it's really there were some town employees who were working with this material unknowingly or not aware that this was contaminated soils, and they themselves may have health issues or otherwise, and this money to go towards that. Okay, that's clarified. Yes, Mr. Matola.
So all these payments are supposed to go to that victims compensation fund, or just that one?
No. There's
that was the Michelangelo one.
Yes, that's
the Michelangelo one, and then I believe the Grabberich one too. The part that was part of his criminal sentence is part of that same fund.
And then, so are these numbers all still correct then, to your knowledge, that, for example, Scott Bartlett
Yes.
The low is 915,000.
But
Just to clarify,
as of
as of November.
November.
So
He's
That's what I meant to say.
continuing to make monthly payments.
Yeah.
Yes, he's
Yeah.
up to date. Yes, he is.
We get his payments, so his
Monthly
payments are a
has
little,
his balance, right.
his payments are paid from his pension. So there's an order that we get half of his pension payment every month. So, I mean, that payment stream is extremely reliable.
Yes.
it's gonna take a while.
It's gonna take a while to pay it down.
Unless we fail to pay our pensions.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all I have.
Yeah, Mr. Walsh.
If someone doesn't pay, do we get interest on the amount? Do you know, Mr. Pierce?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Okay.
I've not looked into that.
Okay. And the funds that come in, do they go into the general fund?
No. No, my understanding is they're going into the Phil Pile Fund, these funds.
Correct.
Fund 228.
Except the victims.
Except for the ones.
Not the victim ones,
Except
yeah,
the
but
victims.
these,
The other funds go into.
Yeah.
the restitution payments to the town, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then if the state's not receiving the payments, do they bring action on their own? Or do you have to ask for action?
So it would happen as part of the criminal process. So, you know, before, for example, before Mr. Julian gets released, they're going to look at whether he's complied with the terms of his probation, and they're going to do a review, or the terms of his sentence. And part of the he's supposed to pay that extra $1 million to us before his release. So they're not going to recommend his release if he hasn't paid the money. So that will be something that will come up through the state's review of it before his release is coming up. Separately from that, as I said, we can convert these to civil judgments. The process to do that does require an affidavit from the state. You know, frankly, I'm not sure it's worth the legal fees to pursue it and try to get that affidavit from the state right now. But it certainly is a remedy available to us if it's needed at a later date.
But not all of these people are in prison, right? There are a lot of these people are
Well, there's only one other. I mean, so Scott Bartlett's payments are coming from his pension.
Yes.
There's only one other defendant. It's Mr. Hibson, who's paying restitution to the town. He got AR. Frankly, you know, the state's attorney was, I think, surprised by the low level of restitution that was awarded. And yeah, so I don't, I mean, my guess is that'll come in as one single batch payment the way we got Mr. Carey's payment, you know, 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, 3 weeks ago.
But you don't know whether any payments have been made yet, other than what you already have here on this.
I don't have any additional information right now.
Well, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Yep. Thank you for following up on it, Connie. Good support. And thank you to the first select woman for having her do this.
As I said,
Updated later, a year from now, that'd be great.
and as I mentioned at the start, we can't thank you enough, not just for being here tonight, but for all your service over the years. Yes, thank you.
Is your email account still active?
I'll send you an email tomorrow.
I would just like to say I've known Connie and I met her through her position back in, I think it was 2000 or 2001. When there was a very close election on RTM districts and they brought the auditors in to do the recount.
Wow.
And I've had the honor and pleasure to work with her on many other things, from the RTM to on the Board of Selectmen. And I have to say, I just want to thank Connie for all her service to the town. She's always been extremely professional, one, and number two, she's been flexible when the town needed her to do other roles in the finance department. Been willing to do that when I think other people would have said, I'm out of here. I'm not doing my role. So, you know, for all those reasons, and always do it with a smile and do it very professionally. You know, it's going to be a big loss, Connie, I would say, to the town. Losing 34 years of institutional knowledge. you know everybody at town hall. So I mean, it's very easy for you to know where, you know where the bones are buried. I don't know.
Oh my God.
I don't, you know, whatever, but you know where to go and how to get it more efficiently than whoever's gonna be taking your place, which is gonna be a little bit of a learning curve. So, but
It's gotta take two people to replace her is what we're hearing.
maybe we need 3 people. I don't know. But anyway, I just wanted to thank you for all the years of service, and answering any of my questions when I had them. So thank you very much, and I just wish you the best in retirement. Do all those things you want to do. And hopefully we'll still see you along the trail.
You will see me around town.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Phil, I think we're all set with you. Thank you for joining us on
Thanks,
a
Phil. Thank you,
late
Phil.
night. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
You
everybody.
stop billing now. That'll make Mr. Walsh happy. All right, so that takes us to item number 7, which is old business. I apologize. I did not get the backup out, but I do have it here. So this is the list of open items. Several of them don't need to be addressed, but this is backup for the first item that we're going to talk about, and we'll get to the others in a moment. So one sheet each on that old business summary, and then there's something with a kind of color-coded timeline. So if I look at the open items list, the first item was BOE utility expense. We heard from the Board of Ed earlier today. They did not have that for us, but they did say that they would have it for us at the next meeting. So we'll address that there. I was hoping to close that out tonight, but we will do that part of their budget presentation. The next 2 items were addressed. Board of Ed backup detail that was provided tonight. So glad to take that off the list. Item 3 was the snow removal expense summary. We heard from the DPW tonight on that. So I was actually glad to hear that they were not as far over budget as I thought they might be. So that was good. So the next item is the fiscal year 27 bonding amounts, February 26 plan modifications versus what was presented in September. Tom put together this one pager that I think there was a point that was made with respect to how does this affect the timing, not just for 27, but for all of the items over the 10-year period. So Tom, what you put together in this summary kind of shows the 3 buckets: town, Board of Ed, WPCA by year, and you can see the totals are only 10 million higher, but the changes are a pretty significant reduction in bonding for 27, and then it kind of goes up a little bit in 28. The peak seems to be the $20 million increase in fiscal year 29. But I think that's what people were asking for in terms of how does that impact the timing? How did any of these changes impact the timing?
Right, and the question really related to fiscal year 27, where there was a decrease, a change of about 30 million.
Right.
So if you look at the color-coded sheet.
I haven't gotten that out yet, so that, which,
I think that went around.
no. So is that?
Yeah.
That's this one?
That's
Is that what
this
you were-
one. Yeah, this.
Oh, is it this one?
And basically what you're gonna see is just projects moving out a year. It's
We'll
just,
take 4 of those.
it's just the timing, changing timing.
Okay, so this is the detail. If you want to dig into 1, 2, 3, 4, the rest can go that way. There are 20 of them, so help yourself. I'll take one. Huh? No, I actually, because this one fell on me, I actually printed these before I came, so this is. But you wanted to show what page?
Yeah, the question really was, why was there such a big change in fiscal year 27 now versus the plan in September?
Right.
And that was really just a shift in the timing of projects. They were just being shifted out, pushed out a year or so.
Yeah.
And if you look at the color-coded sheet and look in fiscal year 27, you'll see the net change of 32.
And that ties to the summary sheet that I sent around initially.
some years, we're gonna be almost $100 billion.
Yeah. Yeah, but this also is the same backup that supported the summary that we saw at our last meeting where we did not go. Got the 8.99.
Yeah, correct. And this also was in the backup at the last meeting.
Right. Putting a finer print on it. All right, and now move that forward. Actually, I'll take one of those. Thanks. All right, that goes over. So then, with the timing addressed, the next item was invite state state representative Leeper to discuss the reimbursement rate. I did have a brief conversation with her. She did say that she'd be happy to come in and talk to this board. I didn't get her on the schedule for tonight, but what she did share with me is that there is a formulaic mathematical approach that will define the minimum reimbursement amount, but there is potential for increased reimbursement amounts for above that minimum, but anything above the minimum would be subject to negotiation. And fortunately, Senator Leeper is on the committee and will be advocating for Fairfield. So
Representative Leeper.
Representing Fairfield, yes. So what she did say was that the reimbursement amounts will be finalized by the first week in May. So if we want to see kind of the formulaic approach, the math behind the minimum, we can certainly get that. But the real number is going to be something that's subjective, and we'll know it come May 4th or 5th or something like that.
So, yeah, I was just gonna ask, like, how does the timing work in terms of like, when you can lock in a number? Like when, and how much can it change? I mean, is it not really lock in until it's project's over? Does it not lock in until you submit whatever paperwork you need to submit? Like how, you know, how that works?
Well, and there's check-ins. Once a project gets on the priority list, right now Dwight's not. Deadlines beyond priority list. State, there's going to need to be special legislation in order to even put this project kind of on the radar. The state, now it's there. That happens. It's not uncommon to have special legislation to do something lower.
Okay.
Once it gets approved, the building committee, the school district is going to have to report out progress of the project.
Yeah, and I was told by Representative Leeper that we shouldn't be concerned that we're not on the priority list because we're not a 2026 expenditure, right? So they prioritize based on calendar as well as just general project.
And they just need to do special legislation to basically get us on the list, which is not uncommon, even though it sounds like it's a big deal, and it isn't. And there is a formula, and as reported by the building committee, and when the project was approved, there's an additional incentive of the 15% for schools that have special education funding and early childhood space.
Right.
And that's per the statute.
Right. And so because of the ECC, that increase from, what is it, 25 to 55, 15, 40, that applies to all the square footage, but then the special ed piece would be just that square footage. So it's a very structured formula. But if there's something above the minimum, some of that formulaic approach becomes moot. So I have one thing the next thing I want to share, you provided on the Dwight stuff, I think answers half of the open questions on Dwight. One of which was, Jim, you asked for this. Can we just please get a matrix of what the original requested money was in the breakdown that included the reimbursement amounts to get, so start with the gross, get to the net. And then what is it today, at least, even though it's a moving target, what is it according to the new building committee that just presented to us. That, we don't have that, but it is straightforward. I'll make sure that we have it for our next meeting. That fell through the cracks, but the second piece of the Dwight stuff that came out, did I pass it around yet?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so the Dwight piece, there was a question, Mr. Myers, you asked, like, there, on the schedule, it looked like it was 74 million. It's the one with the folded boxes, yes. So on the, this is the one, Mr. Myers or Jim, you mentioned that the schedule showed 74 million, but we were talking all night about 76 million. And we wanted to make sure that it tied back, the numbers tied back. Mr. Harris, you provided this. I think the footnotes that you provided here address the 76 million.
Right.
What you've highlighted in the chart above ties to the second page here. The blue box highlights it. But if I understand this correctly, this line item that's total authorized costs 150 million, 29.5 other financing sources. You run the numbers across, you get to 74. That's a coincidence that the 74 and 76 is close. This relates to all the BOE projects.
But Dwight is in this number.
Oh, Dwight's in here, yeah, but I certainly fell victim to it. I was getting confused the other night when we were looking at a number that was 74. We were talking about a number that was 76, but 76 really is the Dwight gross. We're gonna get some reimbursements along the way. What was on this line item is 150 gross, 74 net, and that includes other projects. So wanted to, yep. And then the last two items are budget book glossary we're gonna get with the completed budget book, and then the stress test for the capital plan we're gonna get with the September capital summit. And then I've got a laundry list of follow-ups that open items that came tonight.
We're gonna look at budget books in a week or so.
Yes,
Yeah, have they gone to the printers yet?
they have.
Yeah. Three ring binder or those little claw things?
They're
Spiral now.
spiral,
Okay.
and the glossary is included.
Spirals, great. Already a massive improvement.
Some of us like three ring binders.
Okay, all right.
I like three ring binders.
Okay.
Spirals.
Outlier.
Without a piece of paper, and it's cumbersome. But I'm fine, I'm not
Yeah,
gonna.
we'll get there. Okay. So that takes us through the open items list. Thanks for your indulgence on that. And because we had an exhaustive list, I won't run through it now. I promise to get an email out tomorrow to everybody summarizing tonight's open items. I know that's something that's important.
I kept those notes on.
Okay, good.
Can I meant to ask Kip Rockville, I forgot to, but he said that he had received from spacing on it, the list of all the towns they consider similar to us. that-
Black Rock, yeah.
And he had these two pieces of paper that they give me. Can we get those? I'd like just to see the numbers.
Town comps
Here.
Oh, it was done by BlackRock.
Yes.
Yes.
We kind of reference them, they should be made part of the record. anyway,
Yeah,
right?
that's a good point. Yep, okay. Sounds good.
But thank you for taking us through and about keeping us on track. I commend you. I know it's a difficult task.
It's a different process, but I really do want to.
Everything in front of us. And I really appreciate you doing it.
I sensed your frustration over the last year when things were kind of falling through the cracks, and it's easy to do.
It is. It is. I really appreciate you having me part of it.
So with that, the last item on the, well, second to last, I guess, to hear and act upon the draft minutes from February 5th. Can I get a motion to hear that item? Amy, thank you. And a second, Shane, thank you. All right. Were there any comments or changes or to the minutes?
I don't see my name on here being absent, and I don't see it being present. But
This was 2 weeks ago. You were here.
Yeah,
we're here.
So I'd like to add my name.
I'll make a
Your
motion to
reference
add your
to-
name.
yeah, reference in it.
Can I make a motion to amend the motion to make him tardy? She took attendance at the start of class.
My own board meeting.
I usually always put him on there anyway, because I know he's gonna show up. I don't know what happened.
So I was kidding about.
Probably didn't ask enough questions.
Yeah.
I'm sure there is someplace.
You want me to make a motion to add your name as being present? Well, there's a motion.
I'll second.
All right, Amy with the second. All in favor of adding Jim's name? Miss. And then any other changes or comments? All right, not hearing any, all in favor of approving the amended minutes? Unanimous, okay. Great. And then any? No, we're good. All right, motion to adjourn. Shane and Amy second, thank you. Thanks all. 10:31. Let's go 10:30. All right.
No, 30 on the mind.